Chapter 3:11. What? Everyone present was stunned. They did not expect Li Changsheng to be so bold as to go against Yin Shuangying. Qi Xian could not help but slap his forehead. He had forgotten about Mr. Li's temper. Yin Shuangying's eyes showed some disdain. He snorted and said, "An ant who doesn't know his place will only invite the fate of being trampled to death." Xiaolin had already blurted out, "Li Changsheng, what right do you have to have an opinion? The ginseng is mine. It's my right to give it to Senior Yin Shuangying. But you've already exchanged the ginseng with me. The ginseng is mine now," Li Changsheng said indifferently. "Isn't it just a cultivation technique? I regret it. Take your cultivation technique back. The ginseng is still mine," Xiaolin said loudly. "We've already reached an agreement. I've also asked if you were willing, and you nodded. If you go back on your word now, it's a breach of contract. Not only will I take back the cultivation technique, but I'll also take back the ginseng," Li Changsheng said coldly. When Xiaolin agreed to exchange the ginseng for the cultivation technique, Li Changsheng had already regarded the ginseng as his own. Someone who dared to snatch his things was clearly tired of living. However, Yin Shuangying, who was beside him, thought the same. He looked at Li Changsheng with a cold gaze. "You dare to snatch my things? You're simply an old man who has eaten arsenic. You're tired of living. Now, I'll give you a chance to reorganize your words and make a new decision." Yin Shuangying exuded a cold aura, which made everyone present feel suffocated. Li Changsheng, in particular, was under the greatest pressure. "Now, I'll ask you again. Is the ginseng yours or mine?" Yin Shuangying had a cold smile on his face. He had released such an aura so that Li Changsheng would know his strength and retreat. "The ginseng is mine." Li Changsheng raised his head slowly and looked straight at Yin Shuangying. "He's too stubborn." Qi Xian couldn't help but worry for Li Changsheng. On the other side, Charlene and Uncle Kong could not help but shake their heads. In their eyes, Li Changsheng was clearly courting death. Did he not see Yin Shuangying's godlike methods? "Brat, since you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, don't blame this old man for being merciless." Yin Shuangying took a step forward and raised his hand. "Mr. Li, be careful," Qi Xian exclaimed. At that time, Yin Shuangying had only casually waved his hand, and that Uncle Kang's shoulder had been pierced. At this moment, it was very clear that the other party was much more serious than when he was dealing with Uncle Kong. This meant that his attack power was much stronger. Uncle Kong revealed a cruel look in his eyes. "This damn brat, how dare you lie to my family's young miss? Let's see how you'll die." His shoulder was pierced through by Yin Shuangying's sword qi, but he didn't dare to hold a grudge against Yin Shuangying. Instead, he hoped that Li Changsheng would also be injured by Yin Shuangying and suffer more than him. That way, he would be able to find balance in his heart. As expected, a sword light was condensing on Yin Shuangying's palm. Everyone could clearly see that under his command, the sword qi suddenly rushed out and stabbed towards Li Changsheng. "It's over." Qi Xian couldn't bear to see it, but he turned his head to the side. However, in the face of the sharp sword qi, Li Changsheng suddenly raised his hand, and the sword qi instantly dissipated as if it had met its nemesis. Next, Li Changsheng took a step forward and suddenly slapped Yin Shuangying's face with his palm. His body turned into an afterimage, and with Yin Shuangying's head, he directly rushed towards the wall behind him. Boom! While everyone was dumbfounded, Yin Shuangying's entire head was slapped into the wall, and the surrounding bricks cracked like a spider web. When Li Changsheng took his hand away, Yin Shuangying fell limply to the ground, foaming at the mouth and twitching continuously. At this moment, everyone was dumbfounded. The awe-inspiring leader of the Qingchang sect had been knocked unconscious in such a tragic way. Li Changsheng turned his head and looked at the butler, Uncle Kong. "Did you just say that I can't block one of your moves?" Uncle Kong was so scared that his hand trembled and the ginseng fell. However, before it could fall to the ground, Li Changsheng gently waved his finger. More than 10 meters away, the ginseng seemed to be pulled by an invisible string and floated to Li Changsheng's side, falling into Li Changsheng's hand. Li Changsheng turned his palm, and the ginseng disappeared. This scene made everyone feel like they were in a dream. This was simply an immortal spell. Yin Shuangying, who had been twitching on the ground, forced his eyes open. When he saw this scene, he was so scared that his body trembled and he started twitching again. "Stop pretending," Li Changsheng said coldly. "Get up right now, or I'll take your life." Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Yin Shuangying stopped twitching and got up from the ground with an embarrassed smile. There were 5 clear palm prints on his cheek, and his nose was slapped crooked. He looked very funny, but now no one could laugh. "Leave something, and I'll let you go," Li Changsheng said coldly to Yin Shuangying. Yin Shuangying's hand trembled, and he hurriedly took out a bag-shaped object and handed it to Li Changsheng. It was a broken Qinquan bag. Li Changsheng took it and checked it with his divine consciousness. He could see that the Qinquan bag was filled with medicinal herbs. These were all plundered by Yin Shuangying along the way. Now Li Changsheng had benefited from them. "Get lost," Li Changsheng said coldly. However, Yin Shuangying did not leave immediately. Instead, he said hesitantly, "That Qinquan bag." Li Changsheng immediately understood that Yin Shuangying was reluctant to give up the Qinquan bag. "A broken bag. Here you go." After Li Changsheng transferred the medicinal herbs into his Qinquan bag, he threw the bag to Yin Shuangying. "Thank you, Mr. Yin." Yin Shuangying, who had come with incomparable prestige, was now as humble as a grandson. He was really afraid that Li Changsheng would not give him the Qinquan bag. However, he did not know that his Qinquan bag was just a defective product. Moreover, it could only hold so few things. Li Changsheng did not care about it all. "Get lost." Li Changsheng waved his hand, too lazy to look at him. Yin Shuangying did not dare to have the slightest resentment. He turned around, took a step, and flew away. Although Xiantian experts could not really fly, they could use the true qi in their body to temporarily soar in the air. Yin Shuangying was afraid that Li Changsheng would go back on his words. Therefore, he chose to leave quickly, even if it consumed the true qi in his body. However, Charlene couldn't help but tremble when she witnessed this scene. Flying. This is a real Taoist cultivator. When Xiaolin was young, she saw a Taoist cultivator fly over her head. Because of this, she became obsessed with Taoist cultivation. Now, she finally saw a Taoist cultivator who could fly again. Li Changsheng immediately understood that the Taoist cultivator Xiaolin was talking about was actually for this reason. He was afraid that it was not a finger-profound realm expert, but a Xiantian cultivator who could use true qi to temporarily soar in the air. The so-called soar in the air was not really flying. True flying was to be able to break free from gravity and soar in the sky. However, soar in the air was just a short distance away from the ground. This senior, Yin Shuangying, was actually an immortal. However, he was still defeated by Li Changsheng. Xiaolin could not help but feel extremely vexed. She did not cherish the cultivation method that Li Changsheng imparted to her. Instead, she asked for Yin Shuangying's cultivation method. Wasn't this the same as throwing away a watermelon to pick up sesame seeds? Chapter 312. Mr. Li, Xiaolin wanted to say something. However, Li Changsheng waved his hand and Xiaolin discovered that the cultivation technique that Li Changsheng had imprinted in her mind had disappeared. "Mr. Li, I was wrong." Xiaolin knelt down in front of Li Changsheng. "Mr. Li, please give me the cultivation technique again." Seeing Xiaolin's pitiful appearance, Qi Xian couldn't bear it. However, when he thought of what Xiaolin had done, he opened his mouth but didn't ask Li Changsheng for mercy. Li Changsheng saw Qi Xian's expression and finally nodded. Although he liked Xiaolin, he wasn't hopeless. Ignoring Xiaolin's pleas, Li Changsheng looked at Steward Kong. Steward Kong still hadn't replied to his question. "Sir," Uncle Kong said in a trembling voice. Just as he was about to plead for something, Li Changsheng gently pointed his finger at him. Then, he was sent flying backwards. He smashed through the glass of the villa and fell into the house. "This is just a small punishment for you. In the future, you'll know that there is always someone better than you." With that, Li Changsheng turned and walked out of the villa. As for Xiaolin, who was kneeling there pitifully, he didn't even bother to look at her. Xiao Lin collapsed on the ground, as if all her strength had been sucked out. She had been searching for 10 years and finally met a true cultivation expert, but she missed him. She regretted it so much that she wanted to slap herself. Seeing Li Changsheng leave, Qi Xian hurriedly followed. When he passed by Xiao Lin, she suddenly hugged his leg. "Brother Xian, please help me ask Mr. Li for mercy. Please let him pass the cultivation technique to me, okay?" Seeing Xiao Lin's humble appearance, Qi Xian couldn't help but sigh. "Is this the goddess in your heart?" He shook his head. "Xiao Lin, it's not that I don't want to help you, but you've disappointed Mr. Li and me too much." After that, he gently removed her hands from his thighs and resolutely followed Li Changsheng. At this moment, he seemed to have understood something, and also seemed to have grown up all of a sudden. "Charlene asked you to plead with me. Why didn't you do that?" Walking out of the villa and getting into the car, Li Changsheng looked at Qi Xian. "The Charlene I liked was a pure and flawless girl, but she's not anymore. She clearly made an agreement with you, but she went back on her words. She disappointed me. At the same time, I also understand that my lowly status can't be exchanged for true feelings." Although there was still some sadness in Qi Xian's eyes, Li Changsheng knew that he had already made up his mind. Everyone had an ignorant youth in a relationship. It was obvious that Qi Xian had already let go. "Congratulations on being yourself." Li Changsheng patted Qi Xian's shoulder and said softly, "Let's go." Qi Xian drove Li Changsheng back to the city of Suzhou. Li Changsheng didn't stay, but took the plane back to Qingzhou. The matter here was over, so there was no point in staying. It wasn't a long distance from Suzhou to Qingzhou. They arrived in an hour. This trip to Suzhou was considered to have some gains. A 5,000-year-old ginseng, plus what he plundered from Yin Shuangying's Qingquan bag, was enough for Li Changsheng to refine another elixir. Just as Li Changsheng entered the neighborhood and walked to the door of his villa, he saw a figure standing at the door of the villa looking into the courtyard. It was Ding Qingxue. "Why are you here?" Li Changsheng looked puzzled. Hearing Li Changsheng's voice, Ding Qingxue was pleasantly surprised. "Mr. Li, you're finally back." That made Li Changsheng even more puzzled. He had interacted with the siblings many times and knew that Ding Qingxue was born with a cold demeanor. Today, she smiled when she saw him, as if she had seen a long-lost relative. It was really not in line with Ding Qingxue's character. "Mr. Li, I'm here because I have something to ask of you." Ding Qingxue stammered. Thinking of her previous attitude towards Li Changsheng, she blushed slightly when she came to beg him. "What's the matter?" Li Changsheng was not surprised. He had gained a lot of benefits from 100 Herb Hall and naturally knew that there was no free lunch in this world. The two disciples of Shu Mountain definitely had something to ask of him. "Well, the Sword Dao meet that is held once every 3 years is about to be held. Do you know about it?" "Sword Dao meet?" Li Changsheng furrowed his brows. He had just woken up not long ago, so he naturally didn't understand what was going on in the cultivation world. "You really don't know about the Sword Dao meet?" Ding Qingxue was surprised. In her opinion, since Li Changsheng was so powerful, he should be a member of the cultivation world. How could he not know about the famous Sword Dao meet? "Just tell me what the Sword Dao meet is." "I really don't know." There was no need for Li Changsheng to hide it. After sizing up Li Changsheng a few times and making sure that Li Changsheng was not lying, Ding Qingxue said, "The Sword Dao meet is a grand event for all the Sword Dao sects in China. All the major Sword Dao sects from China will participate, and a leader will be selected at each Sword Dao meet to be the leader of the Sword Dao Alliance. This time, the Sword Dao meet will be held in a few days, and the sect leader of Shu Mountain, Sima Changkong, will also participate." "Is Sima Changkong your uncle master?" Li Changsheng remembered that the person who had an arm severed by him at Xinglong Street and fled in a sorry state was the sect leader of Shu Mountain. At the mention of Sima Changkong, there was some hatred in Ding Qingxue's eyes. However, Li Changsheng was not too concerned about the grudges in their sect. He just wanted to know what the Ding siblings wanted him to do. Since he had received a favor from the Ding siblings, he naturally had to repay them. As for the rest, it had nothing to do with him. This time, I'm here to ask you to represent us at the Sword Dao meet. Isn't Sima Changkong from Shu Mountain going to participate? Wouldn't there be two people from Shu Mountain then? Li Changxing naturally knew that it was impossible for Ding Qingxue and the rest to reconcile with Sima Changkong. That's right. It's precisely because Sima Changkong will participate that we came to beg you. Sima Changkong will succeed as the sect leader of Shu Mountain, but he's usurping the position. Many of his colleagues in the cultivation world don't recognize him. However, if he wins the Sword Dao meet this time and becomes the leader of the Sword Dao Alliance, then it'll be a done deal. No one will dare to question his position as the sect leader of Shu Mountain, so he must not be allowed to win. Only Mr. Li can defeat Sima Changkong in front of all the Sword Dao sects and let everyone know that my brother and I are the orthodox Shu Mountain. When the time comes, we can use the prestige of the Sword Dao Alliance to take back the position of the sect leader of Shu Mountain step by step. I see. At this point, Li Changxing already understood everything. Sima Changkong wanted to win the Sword Dao meet to prove himself, and the siblings wanted to use Li Changxing to stop Sima Changkong. Chapter 313. Okay, I promise you. Li Changxing nodded. Thank you. Ding Qingxue was overjoyed. Although she and her brother had helped Li Changxing get a lot of spiritual herbs, the value of those spiritual herbs was far from enough to invite a super expert like Li Changxing to help. She originally thought that Li Changxing would ask for an exorbitant price, but she didn't expect Li Changxing to agree so easily. However, she didn't know that in Li Changxing's opinion, Sima Changkong was just like an ant, and he was just doing it casually. If he could repay the siblings for helping him find medicinal herbs, it would definitely be worth it. Since you've agreed, come with me, Mr. Li, Ding Qingxue said. Didn't you say that the Sword Dao meet will be held in a few days? Where are we going now? An elder of Shu Mountain who supports us is here. He was the one who told us about Sima Changkong's purpose. He wants to see you, Mr. Li. After hearing Ding Qingxue's words, Li Changxing understood. The other party was an elder of Shu Mountain who had always supported the siblings. The Sword Dao meet this time was of great significance. Hence, he naturally had to know who the trump card that the siblings were talking about was. Okay, Li Changxing didn't decline. He didn't even enter the villa and simply followed Ding Qingxue to the 100 Herb Hall Pharmacy on Xinglong Street. When he walked in, he heard the sounds of fighting and saw that Ding Qingyang was fighting with an old man. Ding Qingyang himself was at the 9th level of Qi refinement, which was equivalent to a martial artist at the Guru realm. He was very powerful, but the old man was even more powerful. He easily blocked Ding Qingyang's every attack. The other party is at the 10th level of Qi refinement, infinitely close to the Khanate realm. Li Changxing could tell the other party's strength at a glance. Hearing the footsteps, Ding Qingyang and the old man finally stopped. After seeing Li Changxing, Ding Qingyang's disciple, Zhou Xing, who was watching at the side, had some fear on his face. He still had some lingering fear of Li Changxing. Mr. Li, you're here. After seeing Li Changxing, Ding Qingyang hurriedly came forward to bow. The old man, on the other hand, frowned. This is the Mr. Li you mentioned? The old man's eyes were filled with shock. When he found out that the Shu Mountain sect leader, Sima Changkong, was going to participate in the Sword Dao meet to consolidate his position, he hurriedly went to look for Ding Qingyang and his sister, asking them to think of a way to stop him. Ding Qingyang said that there was an expert in Qingzhou. As long as he was willing to help, Sima Changkong had no chance of winning. The old man was very happy. When Ding Qingxue went to invite Li Changxing, he was still guessing what kind of sage-like expert he was. But Li Changxing's appearance clearly disappointed him. He was so young, so ordinary, and he couldn't feel the slightest bit of true qi from Li Changxing. This kid is actually called an expert. The old man shook his head. Sir, this is Elder Yu Feng of the Shushan sect. After that, he introduced him to Yu Feng. This is the Mr. Li I told you about. Hello. Li Changxing cupped his hands towards Yu Feng in Jianghu etiquette. To his surprise, Yu Feng did not respond. Instead, he sized up Li Changsheng a few times before glaring at Ding Qingyang angrily. I came all the way here from Shushan, but you guys actually found such a young kid. Nonsense. After saying that, he flicked his sleeves and strode into the medicine store. Ding Qingyang couldn't help but look a little embarrassed, and he hurriedly apologized to Li Changsheng. Mr. Li, I'm really sorry. My uncle master doesn't understand your abilities. It's okay. Li Changsheng smiled. Now that we've met, I'll go home first. Come and pick me up when it's time to set off. After saying that, Li Changsheng turned around and left. Ding Qingyang opened his mouth, but didn't say anything in the end. Ding Qingshu aside and said, "Oh no, Mr. Li won't be angry, right?" Ding Qingyang was also a little worried. We'll find more spiritual herbs to compensate Mr. Li in the future, but Elder Yu needs us to explain clearly now. After Ding Qingyang said that, the siblings hurriedly walked into the house. However, she saw that Elder Yu was currently sitting down angrily and sulking by himself. "Elder Yu," Ding Qingyang called out, and Elder Yu immediately turned his head. "I'm so disappointed in you and your sister. This Sword Dao meet is your only chance to defeat Sima Changkong and prove to the world of Dao who is the orthodox Shu Mountain sect. However, you found such a brat who's still wet behind the ears. Do you think this is a joke? Elder Yu, don't be angry. Mr. Li is really strong. Sima Changkong's arm was chopped off by him." Elder Yu pursed his lips. "You two are really good at making things up. Sima Changkong said that the reason his arm was chopped off was because he met a superpower house. That superpower house is an old monster who is cultivated for thousands of years. He's a finger-profound realm expert. How could it be him?" The siblings didn't know what to say. It turned out that Sima Changkong was afraid of embarrassing himself after going back, so he fabricated the image of a superpower house. This time, the siblings didn't know how to explain. "Elder Yu, what we said is true." Ding Qingyang still wanted to explain. However, Elder Yu slammed his hand on the table. Bam! He stood up. "Okay, just take it that it's true. I'm going back to Shushan. You guys take care of yourselves. I'm very disappointed in you." After saying that, he left, leaving Ding Qingyang and Ding Qingyang standing there looking at each other. "What should we do, brother?" Ding Qingxue asked Ding Qingyang. "What else can we do?" "We can only wait for Mr. Li to show his prowess, and Elder Yu will naturally understand that we did the right thing." "Yes." Ding Qingxue nodded. They were extremely confident in Li Changsheng. Although it was rumored that Sima Changkong had not only regrown his arm after returning to Shushan, but his strength had also improved greatly. However, how could he be a match for Li Changsheng? 7 days passed quickly. On this day, Ding Qingyang and Ding Qingxue came to pick up Li Changsheng on time. The Sword Dao meet was held at Lonely Mountain, which was not far from Qingzhou. Besides, the Sword Dao meet would be held tomorrow, so they set off a day in advance. They drove at a moderate speed, and about an hour later, they arrived at a small town. From the car window, they could see a mountain range rising into the sky. It was Lonely Mountain, and the martial arts meet was held in the small town at the foot of Lonely Mountain. Ding Qingyang had already booked a hotel there in advance. After they checked in, Ding Qingyang said to Ding Qingxue, because it was still early, "Sister, Lonely Mountain is also a scenic spot, and it's where the Sword Dao meet has been held. Why don't you show Mr. Li around?" Hearing her brother's words, Ding Qingxue's face turned slightly red. Before coming, her brother had told her that he felt that Li Changsheng was a good match for her because he was young, had good martial arts, and kept a low profile. Hence, he wanted her to seize this opportunity. Ding Qingxue said that she did not have any feelings for Li Changsheng, but now that her brother said that, she knew that her brother had not given up yet. He wanted her to go out with Li Changsheng in order to create an opportunity for them to be alone. To be honest, Ding Qingxue herself did not know how she felt about Li Changsheng. In the beginning, she disliked Li Changsheng, but after several incidents, she realized that Li Changsheng was not that annoying. She felt that she would not fall in love with Li Changsheng because of that. Besides, Ding Qingxue had a cold personality and had never been in a relationship before. Hence, she did not know what true feelings were. Li Changsheng happened to want to go for a walk because he found that lonely mountain was very unusual. At the very least, the spiritual energy there was richer than other places. Chapter 314. After leaving the hotel, the two of them went up Lonely Mountain. Li Changsheng confirmed that there was indeed a small spiritual vein at the foot of this lonely mountain. However, this spiritual vein was too small and could only affect an area of 20 to 30 miles around the lonely mountain. The further away from the lonely mountain, the spiritual qi would return to normal. Although the concentration of spirit energy was much stronger than other places, it was actually equivalent to the concentration of spirit energy gathered by the Spirit Gathering Array in Li Changsheng's villa. This made Li Changsheng slightly disappointed. It would be great if the concentration was 2 or 3 times higher. Li Changsheng thought to himself. Ding Qingxue saw that it was getting late and said that she wanted to return to the hotel. Therefore, when the two of them walked down the mountain, they heard a surprised voice after taking a few steps. Qingxue, why are you here? It was a woman in red who was dressed very beautifully, especially her flaming red lips. She was completely different from Ding Qingxue. Guofu, it's actually you. After seeing the woman, Ding Qingxue's face lit up. Guofu was the daughter of a Kendo family. The family head of the Kendo family and the former sect leader of Shushan, who was Ding Qingxue's master, had a very good relationship. The two of them had known each other since they were young. Since Sima Changkong succeeded to the throne, Ding Qingyang and his sister had roamed the world and had not seen each other for many years. At this moment, they were naturally very happy to meet an old friend in a foreign land. This is... Guofu looked at Li Changsheng, who was next to her. This is Mr. Li, my friend. Ding Qingxue's face was slightly red because she was afraid that her good friend would misunderstand. In fact, the other party had indeed misunderstood. After all, according to Guofu's understanding of Ding Qingxue had a cold personality. Apart from her brother, she rarely interacted with boys. Now that she had come to the mountain to play with Li Changsheng, it was no wonder that she would think too much. She sized up Li Changsheng a few times and did not say anything. However, there was a clear sigh in her eyes. Ding Qingxue's appearance was many times more beautiful than Guofu's. Originally, with Ding Qingxue's status, she would have to find a boyfriend who was a true disciple of a major sect. But now, she had found an ordinary person like Li Changsheng. From Guofu's point of view, Ding Qingxue and her brother were on the run and were no longer the true disciples of Shushan. That was why they settled for the next best thing and found such a boyfriend. Thinking of this, she suddenly seemed to have thought of something and said, Qingxue, we haven't seen each other in so many years. This time, we must have a proper gathering. It just so happens that young Master Lu is inviting all the young talents from the various major sects for a meal to get to know each other better. Do you still remember young Master Lu? He is the son of the leader of the Huashan sect. Of course I know. Lu Yuanlong's father, Lu Sun, is the sect leader of Mount Hua and the champion of the previous Sword Dao conference. He's also the leader of the Sword Dao Alliance. A bitter smile appeared on Ding Qingxue's face. 3 years ago, she had met Lu Yuanling once. At that time, she was still a true disciple of the Shushan Sword sect and had a noble status. 3 years later, Lu Yuanling was still an elite while she was like a stray dog. During this Sword Dao conference, I must take back everything that belongs to me and my brother. I must make that traitor, Sima Changkong, a scum that everyone despises. Ding Qingxue thought to herself silently. At the same time, Ding Qingxue looked at Li Changsheng, who was beside her because all her hopes were pinned on Li Changsheng. Mr. Li, look, Ding Qingxue and Guofu hadn't seen each other for many years, and she really wanted to get together with her best friend. However, this time, she was accompanying Li Changsheng for a stroll. Hence, she naturally had to respect Li Changsheng's opinion. Okay, I have nothing to do anyway. Let's go together. Li Changsheng said. Ding Qingxue smiled. Guofu, who was at the side, saw everything and couldn't help but sigh faintly. She used to be a true disciple of Shushan, but now she actually had to give in to a country bumpkin. In her opinion, it was clearly a kind of tragedy. Let's hurry down the mountain. The banquet will be held soon. Guofu went over to hold Ding Qingshue's hand, and the three of them quickly walked down the mountain. They then took a taxi and went straight to a hotel. The hotel was brightly lit, and it was also the only five-star hotel in Lonely Mountain Town. Let's go in quickly. Soon, the three of them walked in. There were many people there this time, and along the way, many people greeted Guofu. Clearly, Guofu's social circle was still very wide. They walked to the innermost table and sat down. Many people couldn't help but look at them in amazement. Those gazes were naturally directed at Ding Qingxue. Ding Qingxue was originally beautiful, and coupled with her cold temperament, it was hard not to attract attention. At this moment, Guofu stood up and introduced with a smile, "This is my friend Ding Qingxue, the original true disciple of the Shushan sect leader." Hearing Guofu's introduction, everyone present suddenly looked surprised. "So you're Ding Qingxue. Nice to meet you." Sect leader Sima even announced a few days ago that as long as you two siblings are willing to join Shushan, he's willing to let you two inherit his legacy. Another young man also said with a smile, "Sect leader Sima is a magnanimous person. He can definitely revitalize Shushan." The person next to him sighed. Ding Qingshue's face was a little ugly, but she couldn't refute. This Sima Changkong had said such words. And if she revealed Sima Changkong's true colors now, it would only make people think that she was narrow-minded and that she was measuring the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. So even if she wanted to refute in her heart, she still chose to remain silent. "Miss Ding, do you still remember me?" At this moment, a young man spoke. When he opened his mouth, the scene instantly fell into silence. Because he was the host of this banquet, the son of the Huashan sword sect leader, Lu Yuanling. "So it's Senior Lu." Ding Qingxue cupped her hands. 3 years ago, she met Lu Yuanling once, but she didn't have a good impression of Lu Yuanling. Because 3 years ago, she found that he was very arrogant and overbearing. 3 years ago, because she was the direct disciple of the Shushan sect leader, she wasn't inferior to Lu Yuanling. So Lu Yuanling still restrained himself. But now, Ding Qingxue could clearly see the naked desire in his eyes, especially those eyes which didn't hide the invasive gaze, which made Ding Qingxue feel very uncomfortable. "Miss Ding, when I first saw you 3 years ago, I was already shocked, and I often thought of your face at night. I didn't expect to see you again 3 years later. Today is the full moon of the 15th. After the banquet, I would like to invite Miss Ding to admire the moon together. I wonder if you can give me face?" When Lu Yuanlang spoke, the surrounding young men revealed a playful look in their eyes. They had been in contact with Lu Yuanlang for a long time, so they naturally knew that Lu Yuanlang had taken a fancy to Ding Qingxue. The so-called admiring the moon together at night was probably using the excuse of admiring the moon to achieve his goal of possessing her. Lu Yuanlang was very confident, because with his current status, Ding Qingxue wasn't worthy of him at all. In his opinion, Ding Qingxue would definitely agree immediately. Chapter 315. However, Ding Qingxue shook her head. "I'm sorry, young Master Lu. I have to accompany my boyfriend tonight." As she spoke, Ding Qingxue suddenly reached out and hugged Li Changxing's arm. Instantly, Lu Yuanlong's face turned gloomy. Guofu hurriedly gave Ding Qingxue a look and whispered, "Qingxue, are you stupid? Young Master Lu invited you. How can you refuse? If you can get close to young Master Lu, even Sima Changkong wouldn't dare to do anything to you. As for your boyfriend, he's not worthy of you." Hearing Guofu's words, Ding Qingxue's eyes revealed a bit of surprise. Was this still her childhood friend? How could her words be so utilitarian? The two girls at the same table had already revealed envy in their eyes. To be able to be fancied by Lu Yuanlang, in their eyes, was simply too lucky. At this moment, Li Changxing looked at Ding Qingxue, who was hugging his arm, and didn't say anything. He knew that Ding Qingxue was using him as a shield, but he didn't care anyway. "Even if you have a boyfriend, you can still admire the moon with me." Lu Yuanling didn't back down, but smiled and said, How could the girl that he, young Master Lu, fancied escape from his hands? 3 years ago, it was fine, but 3 years later, Ding Qingxue was just a stray dog. As for Li Changsheng, Lu Yuanlang had already automatically ignored him. He didn't know where this bumpkin came from, but he didn't care at all. That's right, Qingxue. Senior brother Lu wants to invite you to admire the moon. This is a great opportunity. How can you refuse? Guofu also tried to persuade her. Ding Qingxue couldn't help but reveal disappointment in her eyes. It seemed that her friend didn't bring her here to reminisce about old times, but to be a pimp. I said, I have a boyfriend. I want to admire the moon with you. Ding Qingxue said coldly. She was very disgusted with this Lu Yuanlang. So, Miss Ding doesn't want to give me face? Lu Yuanlang was a bit angry, but he didn't show it. Instead, he looked at Li Changsheng. I wonder which sect are you from, Miss Ding's boyfriend? I'm not from any sect. I'm self-taught. Li Changsheng said faintly. Self-taught? Ha! Lu Yuanlang could not help but laugh out loud. I can see that there are no calluses on your hands. Your eyes are lifeless, and your body is weak. You don't look like a martial arts expert, but more like an ordinary person. Forgive me for not seeing through your so-called self-taught talent. Lu Yuanlang's eyes carried a faint sense of ridicule. Maybe he's a loser. Someone at the side added, and everyone at the table burst into laughter. Guofu laughed the loudest. Ding Qingxue's face immediately turned ugly. She didn't expect that her childhood friend would become like this, especially Li Changsheng. This time, she relied on Li Changsheng to take back everything she had lost. But now, because of her, Li Changsheng was humiliated. This made her feel very guilty. I'm sorry, Mr. Li. Let's go back. Ding Qingxue whispered. As she spoke, she was about to stand up. She knew that Li Changsheng was not as bad as Lu Yuanlang said, but she didn't want any conflict between Li Changsheng and the other party. The Huashan sect had a very deep background. In these years, they had been showing off their abilities. Although Li Changsheng was powerful, she felt that it was unrealistic for one person to fight against an entire sect. Unexpectedly, Li Changsheng shook his head. No hurry. Although Li Changsheng was a good-tempered person, it didn't mean that he didn't have a temper. In fact, the way Lu Yuanlang looked at Li Changsheng just now had a bit of killing intent. This touched Li Changsheng's bottom line. Anyone who dared to kill him would not have a good ending. All right, it's not easy for everyone to gather together. Let's eat more. Lu Yuanlang smiled and looked at Li Changsheng. Everyone here is a martial artist. Since Miss Ding has taken a fancy to this brother Li, he must be very powerful. Why don't we exchange a few moves to liven things up? Although Lu Yuanlang had a smile on his face, his eyes were very cold. Since he had taken a fancy to Ding Qingxue, he must get her. As for Li Changsheng, he wanted to use this opportunity to let Li Changsheng understand that if he, young Master Lu, wanted something, others had to obediently give it to him. Otherwise, their ending would be very miserable. Hearing Lu Yuanlang's words, the surrounding people revealed a playful look. They had already guessed what Lu Yuanlang wanted to do. Then, everyone looked at Li Changsheng, wanting to see how he would respond. Unexpectedly, Li Changsheng calmly tasted the wine in his cup, as if he didn't hear anything. After a full 5 minutes, Li Changsheng still looked as if nothing had happened. Even Ding Qingxue couldn't sit still, but Li Changsheng's expression remained unchanged. Lu Yuanlang's face was completely gloomy. The other party dared to ignore him. Brotherly, are you not giving me face? Lu Yuanlang said gloomily. Finally, Li Changsheng raised his head and smiled. You want to exchange pointers with me? You're not worthy. What did you say? Lu Yuanlang's face froze, suspecting that his ears had misheard. Everyone in the room was also dumbfounded. He actually dared to say that Lu Yuanlang was not worthy. He must be crazy. Ding Qingxue's face couldn't help but show some worry. She naturally didn't think that Lu Yuanlang was Li Changsheng's opponent, but she didn't want Li Changsheng to offend the entire Huashan sect because of this. Kid, what did you say? Lu Yuanlang gritted his teeth and asked. His eyes were about to spit fire. I said you're not worthy. Li Changsheng said word by word. This time, it completely blew up. Lu Yuanlang flipped his hand, and his sword appeared. With a bang, the sword was unsheathed and pointed at Li Changsheng's cheek. "Kid, you're courting death." The people sitting at the table all stood up and retreated to both sides. They knew that with Lu Yuanlang's temper, he would definitely kill the other party. This kid doesn't look good, but he's got guts. He dares to provoke Lu Yuanlang. Newborn calves are not afraid of tigers. He's just a guy who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Someone shook his head. Guofu screamed, "Qingxue, look at your boyfriend. He's crazy. Young Master Lu will definitely take his life if he makes a move." Ding Qingxue sighed in her heart. She understood Li Changsheng's strength, but she still felt that Li Changsheng was too reckless. A single Lu Yuanlang was nothing, but he had the entire Huashan sect behind him. Just as the battle was about to break out, a voice suddenly rang out. "Young Master Lu, I wonder if you can give this old man some face and take back your sword?" Turning around, he saw Elder Yufeng of the Shushan sect walking over. There was an old man beside Yufeng, who was watching all of this with interest. Elder Yufeng and his old friend came to this hotel for a meal. The moment they entered, they saw the quarrel. After listening for a few minutes, they knew the whole story. Initially, Yufeng didn't like Li Changsheng. But since Li Changsheng was invited by Ding Qingxue and her sister, he hesitated for a moment and chose to speak up. Chapter 316. So it's Elder Yu. Lu Yuanlang cupped his fists. "Elder Yu, this kid has no idea what's good for him. I have to teach him a lesson." Lu Yuanlang said, "Young Master Lu, your father and I used to travel the world together when we were young, so I'm considered your elder. You must give me some face." After Elder Yu said that, Lu Yuanlang's expression changed several times before he put his sword away. "Okay, since Elder Yu said so, I'll let him off today." After saying that, he glared at Li Changsheng fiercely. "Kid, the sword down meet will begin tomorrow. Don't let me see you again. Otherwise, I'll chop your head off with my own hands. It's useless no matter who pleads for mercy." After saying that, he sat down coldly. Seeing that Lu Yuanlang had put his sword away, Yufeng heaved a sigh of relief and then looked at Li Changsheng. "You two come out with me for a while." Ding Qingxue and Li Changsheng came out together with Yufeng. As soon as they left the hotel, Yufeng stared at Li Changsheng angrily and said, "Do you know who Lu Yuanlang is? How dare you get into a conflict with him? He may be young, but he's already a young expert at the 9th tier of Qi refinement. You're simply courting death." Ding Qingxue couldn't help but lower her head. Yufeng was her elder, so she had to humbly accept whatever he said. However, Li Changsheng was different. "I won't hold it against you on the account that you helped me out of goodwill this time. But if you dare to speak to me in such a tone again, don't blame me for being rude," Li Changsheng said coldly. Yufeng widened his eyes, not expecting him to dare to talk back to him. Just as he was about to speak, Ding Qingxue hurriedly said, "Elder Yu, Mr. Li is a VIP invited by us." Yufeng waved his sleeve angrily and said, "You guys better behave yourselves. If Lu Yuanlang comes looking for trouble with you again tomorrow, I'll see how you deal with it." After saying that, he walked into the hotel angrily. "Elder, you didn't mean it." Ding Qingxue hurriedly apologized to Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng waved his hand and said, "It's okay, he's your uncle master, so it's fine for him to reprimand you, but he's not qualified to criticize me." After saying that, he walked straight to the road. Ding Qingxue followed behind. Her expression changed several times before she finally sighed. She actually wanted to say that although Li Changsheng was powerful, it was unwise to offend Lu Yuanlang today. Not only would she offend a strong enemy for herself, but she would also make enemies for the siblings. However, Li Changsheng was standing up for her, so she couldn't say it out loud. At this moment, Yufeng walked into the hotel. The old man who came with him was already seated on a chair. Seeing him come back, he poured him a cup of tea and asked, "Brother Yu, was that young man your junior?" Yufeng coldly snorted, "No, it's just a reckless guy. If it weren't for some other reason, I wouldn't have bothered with him." After saying that, he drank the tea in the cup, suppressed the anger in his heart, and said, "Brother Xia, you came all the way to Lonely Mountain to find me. What's so important?" The man sighed and said, "Brother Yu, to tell you the truth, although I'm the leader of the Qin gang and famous in Jianghu, I'm still powerless in the face of cultivators like you. A few days ago, a master broke into my house and took away a ginseng that was passed down from my ancestors. I don't care if the ginseng is lost, but as the leader of the Qin gang, the news has already spread. I'm really ashamed to face people. This time, I'm here to ask for Brother Yu's help to punish the person who stole my ginseng. I'm willing to give you a top-level spirit stone as a reward." It turned out that this middle-aged man was Xia Lin's father, the leader of the Qin gang, Xia Feiyang. He was furious when he learned that his ancestral ginseng was taken away by Li Changsheng, but after hearing about Li Changsheng's strength, he knew that even the Qin gang's strength could not do anything to Li Changsheng. So he went to find his former friend, Yu Feng. As the leader of the Qin gang, Xia Feiyang naturally knew about the existence of the immortal cultivation world. All these years, his daughter had been searching for the whereabouts of immortal cultivators. Back then, he had secretly let Yu Feng see his daughter's aptitude and knew that his daughter was not suitable for immortal cultivation, but he could not discourage his daughter, so he let her do whatever she wanted all these years. But he did not expect that his daughter would lose their ancestral ginseng. Xia Feiyang knew that although he had a good relationship with Yu Feng, if he wanted to move Yu Feng, ordinary wealth would not be enough. So, he gritted his teeth and took out a spirit stone he obtained in his early years. Sure enough, when he heard the words top-grade spirit stone, Yu Feng's eyes flashed. "Really?" "Of course." Xia Feiyang nodded, took out a wooden box, opened it a little, and immediately closed it. "May I ask who stole your ginseng?" Yu Feng asked. Apparently, he was moved. "His name is Li Changsheng. I don't know which sect he is from, but he has a good relationship with Qi Xian, the son of sickly tiger Qi Yu." "I see." Yu Feng nodded. Although he felt that the name Li Changsheng was somewhat familiar, he could not remember where he had heard it before. He just thought that was a figure from a small sect in the immortal cultivation world and did not care, so he agreed immediately. "Okay, Brother Xia, don't worry. I will definitely tie him up and bring him to you for you to punish. Then I'll have to trouble you, Brother Yu." Xia Feiyang cupped his hands and said. Although he knew about the existence of the immortal cultivation world, he did not know much about it. He only knew that Yu Feng had a high status and heard from his daughter that the man who snatched the ginseng was just a young man. He felt that there would definitely be no problem for Yu Feng to take action. "Brother Xia, there happens to be a Sword Dao conference tomorrow. You should go and take a look. Maybe the guy who snatched your ginseng will also appear tomorrow. When the time comes, I will take him down in front of everyone in the immortal cultivation world, and you can punish him. This way, your prestige will not only spread in the Jianghu, but also in the immortal cultivation world." "Okay." Xia Feiyang nodded and clenched his fists. Li Changsheng and Ding Qingxue returned to the hotel to see that Ding Qingyang had been waiting for them for a long time. "Mr. Li, this is the information of the experts of the various sects in the Sword Dao Conference." Ding Qingyang handed a stack of photocopied A4 paper to Li Changsheng, who could see that it was full of words and photos. Li Changsheng casually took a look at it, which included the cultivation methods of a person, their martial arts strength, their battle records, and even the information that could be found since they were young. Clearly, Ding Qingyang had really put in a lot of effort. Li Changsheng picked it up and flipped through a few pages. It was not easy for Ding Qingyang to find such a pile of information, but he was really annoyed by it. For Li Changsheng, there were very few people in this world who were worthy of his attention. After reading a few pages, Li Changsheng casually threw the information aside. Ding Qingyang was also very helpless about that. He originally wanted to let Li Changsheng know his enemy well, so that he could suppress the crowd. However, since Li Changsheng did not want to see it, he could not force him. Due to the fact that it was already late, Ding Qingyang and Ding Qingxue left after sitting for a while. When they left Li Changsheng's room, Ding Qingxue told Ding Qingyang about what happened at the banquet. "Brother, Mr. Li is a bit too reckless. He offended Lu Yuanlang, and the people of the Huashan sect will hate us too. That will be detrimental to our future confrontation with Sima Changkong." Hearing Ding Qingshue's words, Ding Qingyang nodded. You have a point, but the father and son of Huashan are not good people either. Lu Yuanlang has a bad record. If it weren't for Mr. Li, you might have been killed by him today. So, you should thank Mr. Li. Hearing her brother's words, Ding Qingxue suddenly came to a realization. Indeed, she only thought that the other party was the sect leader of the Huashan sect, but she forgot that the other party's initial purpose was to kill her. If it weren't for Li Changsheng, she wouldn't have been able to escape so easily. In an instant, Ding Qingxue felt that she shouldn't have blamed Li Changsheng. Chapter 317. The night passed quickly, and early the next morning, Li Changsheng and Ding Qingxue went straight to the venue of the Sword Dao meet. When they arrived, there were already many people who had arrived in advance. The Sword Dao meet was also a grand occasion for Sword Dao sections. Not only would there be people from Sword Dao sects, there would also be many other cultivation sects and some itinerant cultivators who would come and watch the fun. Although it wasn't considered a huge crowd, it was still a spectacular sight. After Ding Qingyang and Ding Qingxue appeared, many people recognized them, but no one came forward to greet them. The current sect leader of Shu Mountain was Sima Changkong, and Shu Mountain was one of the best Sword Dao sections. People naturally didn't want to offend the sect leader of Shu Mountain just because they said a word to Ding Qingyang and Ding Qingyang. Ding Qingyang even took the initiative to greet an old friend of his master, but the other party avoided him like he was the plague. There were also a few people who used to be on good terms with his master, but they also pretended not to see the two of them. When they walked past them, they would walk away quickly. They made the two of them experience the hypocrisy of the world. After the three of them entered, they found a seat and were about to sit down when a figure suddenly appeared in front of them. It was the son of the sect leader of Huam Mountain, Lu Yuanlang. Lu Yuanlang's goal was very obvious, and that was to find trouble with Li Changsheng. He stood in front of Li Changsheng with an icy, cold expression. Kid, have you forgotten what I said yesterday? How dare you show up here? Even Yufeng won't be able to stop you today. Behind Lu Yuanlang, Guofu, and the young people at the table yesterday were standing not far away and looking at Li Changsheng with a sneer, waiting to watch a good show. Apart from that, many people who didn't know what was going on also looked over and wondered who this young man was. Since he had offended Lu Yuanlang, he was going to be in trouble. A good dog doesn't get in the way. Get lost, don't block my sight. To his surprise, Li Changsheng didn't care about the aggressive Lu Yuanlang at all. He simply said impatiently, as if he was driving away an annoying fly. What did you say? Lu Yuanlang's face immediately turned purple. Li Changsheng still dared to be so arrogant in front of so many people. He really wanted to kill him. What? Are you deaf? I told you to scram. Li Changsheng raised his voice by a few decibels. The surroundings fell silent. Many people were stunned. There was only one thought in their minds, and that was that this brat was done for today. Sure enough, Lu Yuanlang took a step forward. The long sword in his hand drew a cold light and directly placed it on Li Changsheng's shoulder. Lu Yuanlang, today is the Dao discussion conference of the various sword sections. It's also the day to select the leader of the Sword Dao Alliance. Mr. Li will be representing the Mount Shu Sword Sect to discuss the Dao. If you're not convinced, you can challenge him in the arena later. Fighting in private is disrespecting the rules of the Dao discussion conference. Ding Qingyang stepped forward and said coldly. He was not afraid that Li Changsheng would be at a disadvantage, but the Huashan sect was too powerful, and there were too many people who were fawning over the Huashan sect. Once Li Changsheng and Lu Yuanlang made a move, it was very likely that many people would join forces to deal with Li Changsheng. Although Li Changsheng was powerful, there were many experts present. Ding Qingyang was afraid that Li Changsheng would be at a disadvantage. Humph! Ding Qingyang, you and your sister are really good. I'll remember you. Lu Yuanlang withdrew the sword in his hand. Indeed, the conference had its rules. His father was still the leader of the Sword Dao Alliance. As the son of the leader, he really should not break the rules of the competition. Moreover, he had just heard Ding Qingyang say that Li Changsheng was representing the brother and sister in the arena. Then, he could defeat Li Changsheng fair and square later. Not only could he vent his anger, but he could also show off in front of his peers in the cultivation world. Lu Yuanlang turned around and walked back to his seat. Many people who were waiting to watch the show could not help but feel a little regretful. Just as Ding Qingyang had guessed, the moment Lu Yuanlang turned around, many people silently withdrew their weapons. These people were experts from various sects and were the supporters of the Mount Shu sect master, Lu Sun. Ding Qingyang couldn't help but sigh. If his master was still alive, he naturally wouldn't have to be so careful. However, the two of them could only rely on Li Changsheng now. Hence, they couldn't let Li Changsheng be in any danger. Although Lu Yuanlang did not attack Li Changsheng for the time being, many people were looking at him with pity in their eyes. It was obvious that Lu Yuanlang would not let it go. Li Changsheng sat there with his eyes closed, not paying attention to the various discussions around him. About another hour or so later, the sect masters of various sects gradually began to appear. Look, the sect master of the Mount Hua sect, Lu Sun, is here. There were exclamations from the crowd. Lu Sun was the champion of the previous Sword Dao meet and the current leader of the Sword Dao Alliance. He had great prestige. As soon as Lu Sun came out, the big shots who had appeared earlier immediately went forward to bow to him and greet him. Lu Yuanlang, who was at the side, had a proud expression on his face. That was his father, the leader of the Mount Hua sect. As his son, he was proud too. With the appearance of Lu Sun, the sect master of Mount Hua, Mount Amei, as well as other sect masters who had never heard of them, appeared one after another. The Sword Dao meet was not only for the competition to determine the leader of the Sword Dao Alliance, but more importantly, it was a time for the various sects to showcase their strength. As long as they showed enough strength, they would be able to gain the respect of others. After Lu Sun appeared, he sat down on the main seat without hesitation. In particular, when he passed by Ding Qingyang and the others, he glanced at them vaguely. Immediately, many people seemed to have realized something. Clearly, the sect master of Mount Hua had also heard about the feud between his son and Li Changsheng. All of a sudden, everyone felt even more sympathetic towards Li Changsheng. On the other hand, the leader of the Qin gang, Xia Feiyang, and Yu Feng had also arrived. Yu Feng continuously introduced the famous figures of the Sword Dao sects to Xia Feiyang. Only then did the leader of the Qin gang know that Yu Feng, who was strong in his eyes, was only ranked in the middle of the Sword Dao sections. Brother Yu, isn't that the young man whom you spoke up to save yesterday? It seems that the sect master of Mount Hua is somewhat hostile towards him. Xia Feiyang was a wily old fox who had sharp eyes. Although Xia Feiyang had only glanced at Li Changsheng, he could already feel that there was something different about him. Yu Feng nodded. Yes, the sect master of Mount Hua, Lu Sun, is famous for being narrow-minded, but he happens to be very strong. I helped that young man once because of the two juniors. Today, he still dared to offend Lu Yuanlang, so he deserves to die. This time, I definitely won't speak up for him again. If I do, I'll offend Lu Sun and his son. It's not worth it for a young man. Understood. Xia Feiyang nodded. Chapter 3:18. The Shushan sect master, Sima Changkong, is here. The crowd was in an uproar again. There were only a few people who could be compared to the Huashan sect master, Lu Sun, and one of them was the Shushan sect master, Sima Changkong. Sima Changkong was wearing a black robe. When he appeared, he attracted the attention of many people. Sima Changkong is also a popular candidate for the championship this time. But other than Sima Changkong, Qingchang Sword Sect's Yin Shuangying is here too. The uproar in the crowd got even louder. Yin Shuangying is not inferior to Sima Changkong. Moreover, he is Sima Changkong's enemy. As expected, when he heard Yin Shuangying's appearance, Sima Changkong's face turned ugly. Yo, isn't this brother Sima? I didn't expect such a coincidence. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. Yin Shuangying said sarcastically. Sima Changkong snorted. Sect Master Yin, you are still the sect master of a sect. Don't be so sarcastic with your words. It's ungentlemanly. Is that so? Yin Shuangying sneered. Sima Changkong, you seize the position of sect master by usurping the throne. You are nothing more than a despicable person. How dare you talk about gentlemanly with me here? Are you worthy? You, Sima Changkong clenched the treasured sword in his hand. He was furious. He seized the position of Shushan's sect master by usurping the throne. This was a taboo topic for him. He was most afraid of people mentioning it. But Yin Shuangying just opened his mouth and exposed the scar. What? Are you angry out of humiliation? You want to fight? Yin Shuangying laughed. Sima Changkong, you are not worthy of fighting with me. I heard that you, the sect master of Shushan, had your arm chopped off by a young man some time ago. You are a disgrace to us sword cultivators. When Yin Shuangying said that, it instantly caused a commotion in the crowd. What? Sima Changkong's arm was chopped off by a young man? Isn't Sima Changkong an innate realm cultivator? How can his strength be so weak? Hearing the discussions of the surrounding people, Sima Changkong's face suddenly turned purple. He coldly shouted, Yin Shuangying, don't talk nonsense. How could a young man defeat me? I only met an old devil who had cultivated for 100 years. That devil was very crafty. I fell for his trick and lost an arm. Although I lost an arm, I also heavily injured that old devil. In the end, that old devil wasn't my opponent and could only escape. After Sima Changkong finished speaking, everyone finally understood. Yin Shuang. At this moment, Yin Shuangying was laughing so hard that he bent over. Idiot Sima, your ability to make up stories is not bad. What devil? Are you trying to fool ghosts? I heard that the one who defeated you was a young man around 20 years old. Moreover, he didn't use any tricks. Instead, he cut off one of your arms openly. At that time, you could only run away in a sorry state. That was because he didn't want to bother with you. Otherwise, you might have become a dead dog today. What did you say? What nonsense? Sima Changkong was furious. He had been keeping the news of him being injured by Li Changxing a secret. He was afraid that it would affect his reputation. He didn't expect his old rival, Yin Shuangying, to know about it. Yin Shuangying was Sima Changkong's rival. Therefore, he had been paying attention to Sima Changkong's news. When he found out that Sima Changkong's arm was chopped off, he immediately went to investigate. Yin Shuangying really found out about the truth. Nonsense? Ha! I'm not talking nonsense. I got it from your disciple. Do you want me to play the recording for everyone to see? Yin Shuangying took out his phone and waved it. Sima Changkong's face turned purple. He didn't expect Yin Shuangying to have a recording. However, his face soon sank. Yin Shuangying, I admit that I lied. But how are you any better than me? What about me? Yin Shuangying was nervous. Just a few days ago in Suzhou, you were also defeated by a young expert. I heard that you were so scared that you begged for mercy. Only then did he let you go. When he said that, it immediately caused another round of discussion. It can't be. Sima Changkong was defeated. Even Yin Shuangying was defeated by a young man. There are too many young experts these days. I wonder if it's true. This is really explosive news. How did you know? Yin Shuangying stuttered. There were only a few people who knew about what happened in Suzhou. He didn't expect it to reach Sima Changkong's ears so quickly. Ha! Yin Shuangying, you have nothing to say now, right? Yin Shuangying snorted. Sima Changkong had caught his weakness. Therefore, the two stopped talking and walked in with a gloomy face. The crowd was already in an uproar. This was simply a piece of explosive news. Two sword sect leaders were defeated. Although they didn't know who the young expert was, they didn't expect there to be such a person in the world. Even the sect leader of Mount Hua, Lu Sun, couldn't help but ponder. He knew Sima Changkong and Yin Shuangying's abilities. Sima Changkong was needless to say. Ever since he succeeded as the sect leader of Mount Shu, he had shocked the world several times. As for Yin Shuangying of Qingchang Sword Sect, he only lost to Lu Sun by half a move in the previous Sword Dao meet. Lu Sun didn't think that he was a match for someone who could defeat the two of them. As the sect leaders of the major sects arrived one after another, the Sword Dao meet officially began. The Sword Dao meet was divided into two parts. One part was the competition between the young experts to determine the top person of the younger generation of the Sword Dao sect. The other part was the competition for the leader of the Sword Dao Alliance. The sect leaders of the various sects, or the representatives of the various sects, would go on stage to compete. At this time, the sect leader of Mount Hua, Lu Sun, stood up and made a gesture. When the scene was completely silent, he cleared his throat and said, "I now announce that the triennial Sword Dao meet has officially begun. The next part will be the battle of the younger generation. The young elites of each sect can go on stage and choose their opponents to battle." As soon as he finished speaking, a female disciple of the Mei sect leaped into the ring. She was using a short sword in her hand. The sword light was dazzling. After defeating 3 opponents in a row, she stepped down to take a break. Then, a young Taoist priest of Wudong's sect went on stage. He used a soft sword like a snake sticking out its tongue. He also defeated 3 opponents in a row before taking a break, causing a commotion. After the young Taoist priest of Wudong's sect stepped down, Lu Yuanling took a step forward and jumped directly into the ring. He cupped his hands and said, "I'm Lu Yuanling of Mount Hua sect." As soon as Lu Yuanling opened his mouth, it caused a round of cheers. His father was the sect leader of Mount Hua. Many people fawned over him and gathered a group of followers around him. "I'll challenge you." As soon as Lu Yuanling stepped into the ring, a young man rushed to the ring. He was a true disciple of Qingchang's sword sect. 3 years ago, Yin Shuangying lost to Lu Sun, the sect leader of Mount Hua sect, in the Dao discussion conference. This young man wanted to defeat Lu Yuanling to save some face for Qingchang's sect. His opponent's sword light was very delicate. He attacked Lu Yuanling as soon as he stepped into the ring. After more than 10 moves, Lu Yuanling suddenly stabbed out with his sword. Sword Qi flew out and instantly knocked the disciple of Qingchang sect out of the ring. Then, Lu Yuanling put away his sword and stood proudly on the cloud platform with a complacent look on his face. "Sword Qi," many people exclaimed. It was worth noting that the principle of Sword Qi was the same as the internal force of a martial artist. To use Sword Qi, one must be at the 9th level of Qi refining realm, which was equivalent to the master realm among ordinary martial artists. Originally, according to the information of the crowd, Lu Yuanling was only at the middle stage of the master realm. The sword Qi he released was not enough to hurt the enemy. However, the sword Qi just now was 3 feet long and extremely sharp. It was a sign that he had stepped into the 10th level of Qi refining realm. "Nephew Lu, what is your current martial arts realm?" The sect leader of Wudong's sect couldn't help but ask. Lu Yuanling hurriedly cupped his hands. Although he was extremely proud, the Wudong sect was not inferior to the Mount Hua sect. He dared not show any disrespect to the sect leader of Wudong's sect. Senior song, I just broke through to the 10th level of Qi refining realm 3 days ago. After saying that, it immediately caused a lot of exclamations. He's already in the 10th level of Qi refining realm at such a young age. It seems that there is no one in the younger generation who can stand shoulder to shoulder with him. It seems that Lu Yuanling will be the champion of the Dao discussion battle of the younger generation this time. The Mount Hua sect is really something. Lu Sun's strength is top-notch, and his son is so outstanding. If Lu Sun can continue to be the leader of the Sword Alliance, then the father and son will be in the limelight. Many people were envious and jealous. Who else? Chapter 319. After defeating the core disciple of the Qingchang sect, Lu Yuanling glanced at the young experts, but no one dared to look him in the eye. At this moment, he was invincible. Senior brother is really outstanding. Many people could not help but sigh. On the other side, Guofu walked to Ding Qingshue's side. Qingshuo, senior brother Lu, is so outstanding, the number one of the younger generation. It's your blessing that he likes you. I introduced you to him for your own good. Shut up. Ding Qingshuo replied coldly. After what happened yesterday, she was completely disappointed in Guofu. Guofu heard Ding Qingshuo's words and could not help but sneer. Qing Xue, I didn't expect you to be so stubborn. Do you think your boyfriend can be compared with senior brother Lu? You've seen senior brother Lu's strength just now. Who among the younger generation can be his opponent? You'll regret it. Senior brother Lu said that he wants to defeat Li Chongqing fair and square. Just wait and see, haha. Guofu smiled proudly. Ding Qingxue could not help but sneer. To be honest, Lu Yuanlang was indeed outstanding for reaching the 10th level of qi refinement at such a young age. However, compared with Li Chongsheng, he was just a piece of trash. Seeing that the young talents did not make a move, an old cultivator in charge of the conference was about to ask Lu Yuanlang to go down and rest for a while. At this moment, Lu Yuanlang suddenly fixed his eyes on a position below and said, "Since no one dares to challenge me, Li Chongsheng, you come. I want to challenge you." As soon as his voice fell, it immediately caused an uproar. Whether it was the younger generation or the older generation, all of their gazes were focused on Li Chongsheng. Many people had doubts in their eyes. After the conflict between Lu Yuanlang and Li Chongsheng, many people had not yet entered the venue, so they did not know who Li Chongsheng was. Who is he? Why is Lu Yuanlang challenging him? Li Chongsheng. I've never heard of this name. Is he a young expert of some secluded sect? No, it's just a reckless brat who offended Lu Yuanlang. Lu Yuanlang wants to teach him a lesson in public. So that's how it is. How pitiful. Being targeted by Lu Yuanlang. The outcome will definitely be very tragic. On the high platform, where several sect leaders were seated, Lu Sun chuckled and said, "My son is straightforward by nature. He has some grudges with Li Chongsheng and wants to settle it in the arena. Originally, that Li Chongsheng was not worth my son's time, but teaching him a lesson in a fair and square manner can also show the magnanimity of our Huashan sword sect." I see. Hearing Lu Sun's words, many people nodded. Although they were disdainful towards the word breadth of mind that Lu Sun spoke of, everyone knew that this pair of father and son were the most narrow-minded. However, Lu Yuanlang had openly challenged Li Chongsheng to resolve their enmity, and this was in accordance with the rules of the Dao discussion, so no one could say anything about it. However, many people cast pitiful gazes towards Li Chongsheng. Yin Shuangying and Sima Chongkong naturally also saw Li Chongsheng. The moment they saw Li Chongsheng, the two of them stood there in a daze, as if they had lost their souls. It's actually him. How could it be him? Yin Shuangying and Sima Chongkong sympathized with him and thought, it's over. Sima Chongkong saw Ding Qingyang and Ding Qingxue, who were sitting beside Li Chongsheng, and instantly knew what was going on. He knew that he had no hope of becoming the champion of today's Dao discussion. Not only him, but the others also had no hope. Once this monster made a move, everyone else was nothing but trash. Yin Shuangying also sighed. At this moment, his mood was very similar to Sima Chongkong's. With Li Chongqing here, he did not have the courage to go on stage. The opponent was so terrifying that they were not on the same level at all. At this moment, when they heard the three words Li Chongsheng, Yu Feng, and the Qing gang's leader, Xia Feiyang, both revealed a surprised expression. No wonder I felt that the name Li Chongsheng was so familiar. It turns out that he is the Mr. Li that Ding Qingyang and Ding Qingxue invited. Yu Feng could not help but frown. Xia Feiyang said with some concern, "That Li Chongsheng is the friend of your two juniors. Then what about the matter that I asked you to do?" Xia Feiyang had personally witnessed Yu Feng speaking up for Li Chongsheng yesterday. Although Yu Feng did not like Li Chongsheng, he did not know if Yu Feng was speaking from the bottom of his heart. He was afraid that the spirit stone he paid would be wasted in the end. When Yu Feng heard Xia Feiyang's words, he immediately understood. As soon as Yu Feng heard Xia Feiyang's words, he knew that the other party was worried. He immediately shook his head and said, "Brother Xia, you're worrying too much. This Li Chongsheng doesn't have much of a relationship with me. I'm only doing what I'm told. Since I've taken your spirit stones, I'll help you. Don't worry, after this brat is defeated by Lu Yuanlang, I'll tie him up in front of you. You can do whatever you want with him." Really? Xia Feiyang's eyes lit up again. A gentleman's word cannot be taken back. Brother Xia can rest assured. In Yu Feng's view, Lu Yuanlang had challenged Li Chongsheng. Whether Li Changxing accepted or not, Lu Yuanlang would not let him go. Then he just needed to capture Li Changsheng and bring him in front of Xia Feiyong, and his task would be considered complete. In the past, Yu Feng was still a little worried. He did not know the identity of the person who had taken Li Changsheng's ginseng, but now that he saw that it was Li Changsheng, he was relieved. He knew Li Changxing's background very well, so he could be at ease and act boldly. At this moment, in the face of Lu Yuanlang's provocation, someone behind Li Changxing whispered, "Friend, you can refuse the martial arts competition. After you refuse, immediately slip away quietly. You might still have a chance to live." Lu Yuanlang was a domineering person, and many people did not like him. The person behind him was one of them. He sympathized with Li Changxing very much. "That's right. Quickly run away quietly. This Lu Yuanlang is a madman," another woman said in a low voice. When she saw how honest Li Changsheng was, she thought of one of her childhood sweethearts. In the end, because of the difference in status between the two of them, they parted ways, so she kindly reminded him. She didn't want Li Changsheng to be taken care of by Lu Yuanlang. Unexpectedly, Li Changsheng only turned around and smiled at them before standing up. "Friend, are you really going to accept the challenge? Are you stupid?" The man said somewhat anxiously. "That's right. You're just looking for a beating. With Lu Yuanlang's personality, even if he doesn't kill you on the spot, he'll break your legs." The woman was very anxious. She was truly concerned about Li Changsheng. That childhood sweetheart of hers was unwilling to be separated from her back then, so he ran to her fiancé's house and caused a ruckus. In the end, both his legs were broken. A few years ago, she secretly went back to visit him and found that he had hung himself in despair. Li Changsheng was too similar to that childhood sweetheart of hers. However, Li Changsheng did not listen to them. Instead, he walked step by step toward the ring. Chapter 320. What? This kid actually dares to accept it? Does he want to die? With Lu Yuanlang's methods, he's done for. Maybe he knows that it's useless to run after offending Lu Yuanlang, so he just went up to the arena and accepted the challenge. Poor guy. A young man will probably become a cripple after today. A cripple is good. I'm just afraid that Lu Yuanlang will take his life. Countless people shook their heads and sighed. Meanwhile, Li Changsheng had already walked up to the arena step by step. When Li Changsheng stood on the arena, Lu Yuanlang's face revealed a cold smile. "Kid, I didn't expect you to actually dare to accept the challenge. Next, I'll let you experience what it means to live a life worse than death." Facing the son of the Huashan sect master, Lu Yuanlang, who was at the 10th level of Qi refinement, Li Changsheng did not show the slightest bit of fear because of his threat. Instead, his voice was indifferent. "Yesterday, you repeatedly provoked me, and I didn't bother to argue with you. Do you think I'm easy to bully? Hee hee. Do you think you deserve to be called provoking? I can only say that you're toying with me." Lu Yuanlang shook his head, thinking that he had heard a very funny joke. Li Changsheng smiled and did not waste any more time. He just raised his foot and took a step forward, raising his palm and lightly hitting Lu Yuanlang's chest. "Did you not eat? Your palm is soft." Lu Yuanlang snorted coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, he raised his hand and grabbed Li Changxing's palm. However, he found that Li Changxing's palm was as light as a feather. It floated under his palm in an instant, and almost instantly imprinted on Lu Yuanlang's chest. At that moment, Lu Yuanlang's face revealed a look of shock because he found that the seemingly light palm suddenly burst with terrifying power. Bang! Immediately after, Lu Yuanlang felt an intense pain in his chest. Then his entire body was sent flying like a cloud, crashing into the cement pillar beside the arena and falling to the ground. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Just as he was about to get up, Li Changxing stepped on his back. Lu Yuanlang's face immediately became twisted, and his eyes were about to spit fire. Being stepped on by Li Changxing in front of everyone was simply humiliating. "Let me go. Li Changxing, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to tear you to shreds." Crack. Li Changxing didn't say anything. He just raised his foot and stomped on Lu Yuanlang's head. The sound of bones breaking came from his head. Lu Yuanlang let out a miserable howl like a pig being slaughtered. Blood flowed out of his 7 orifices. Only then did the crowd wake up from their daze and gasp. It was too ruthless. Even though the power of that foot did not land on their bodies, every single one of them could feel it. Just thinking about it made them shudder. Most of them were surprised by Li Changsheng. Lu Yuanlang had broken through to the 10th level of qi refinement. He could be considered the number 1 person among the younger generation of many sword cultivator sections. Just a second ago, everyone unanimously believed that Lu Yuanlang would be the final victor, but in the blink of an eye, he was stepped on by Li Changsheng. At this moment, the people who were at the same table as Li Changsheng yesterday were even more dumbfounded. Yesterday, they thought that Li Changsheng was a weak and ordinary person without any strength. They didn't expect that he was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. With his strength to defeat Lu Yuanlang, no one in the younger generation was a match for him. The man and woman who reminded Li Changsheng earlier also widened their eyes. They thought to themselves, no wonder Li Changsheng dared to go up on stage to accept the challenge. However, no one showed any envy when Li Changsheng defeated Lu Yuanlang. Instead, many people showed pity in their eyes. There was no doubt that the act of stepping on Lu Yuanlang's head had completely offended the Huashan sect. Sure enough, everyone looked at Lu Yuanlang's father, Lu Sun, and saw that Lu Sun's face was gloomy and his eyes were flashing with killing intent. Lu Sun was not a magnanimous person to begin with. Moreover, when Lu Sun saw his son being stepped on by someone else, he probably wanted to tear the other party into pieces. Friend, you have won this competition. Please let go of Lu Yuanlang. The old man in charge of the competition said, yes, when it's possible to let people off, one should be lenient. The way you stepped on his head is a bit too much. Another Sword Dao sect leader also spoke. However, Li Changsheng sneered. If I was stepped on by Lu Yuanlang, I'm afraid you wouldn't say that. A bunch of sanctimonious lackeys. What did you say? The old man who spoke just now suddenly became furious. I said you're a lackey, so what? Li Changsheng snorted coldly. At the same time, he stomped hard on the soles of his feet, and a cracking sound was heard again. Lu Yuanlang let out an extremely miserable scream. The old man's face was extremely ugly. Li Changsheng's actions were not only stepping on Lu Yuanlang's head, but also slapping his face. It was simply a provocation. Impudent. The old man's eyes revealed a fierce light. He was indeed Lu Sun's subordinate, but being ridiculed by Li Changsheng in public as a lackey made him very embarrassed. Moreover, after he spoke, he deliberately stepped on Lu Yuanlang's head again. He was clearly ignoring him. On the other side, Lu Sun had long clenched his fists. However, as the leader of the Sword Dao Alliance, it was not appropriate for him to intervene in this matter. After all, this happened in the arena. Friend, it seems that you don't take me seriously. The old man was the leader of Sword Family. At this moment, being provoked by Li Changsheng in front of so many people, he was really angry. Moreover, as the lackey of the sect leader of Huashan, Lu Sun, he had to stand up when Lu Yuanlang was beaten. At this moment, a powerful aura condensed on the old man's body. A short sword appeared in the old man's hand. The sword was emitting a golden light and was emitting a sharp aura. Let go of Lu Yuanlang immediately and kneel down to apologize for what you said just now. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. The old man said coldly. Li, kill me if you have the guts. If you don't kill me, you're not a man. Lu Yuanlang also shouted loudly. He relied on his father's presence and many of his father's followers, so he was sure that no matter how arrogant Li Changsheng was, he would not dare to kill him. At the next moment, Li Changsheng took the foot off his head. Everyone present thought that Li Changsheng was going to let Lu Yuanlang go in the face of the old man's power. Even Ding Qingxue breathed a sigh of relief. Guofu sneered and said, Ding Qingxue, did you see that? No matter how strong your boyfriend is, so what? He still has to let Lu Yuanlang go obediently and apologize for his actions. However, do you think he'll be fine after he apologizes? Lu Yuanlang will not let him go. The Huashan sect will not let him go. Just as Guofu was proudly saying these words, her voice suddenly stopped abruptly. Guofu was not the only one. Everyone present widened their eyes. That was because Li Changsheng had just taken his foot off. When Lu Yuanlang tried to get up from the ground, he suddenly raised his foot again and mercilessly stepped on his head. The foot stepped on Lu Yuanlang's back, where his heart was. Then, Lu Yuanlang's eyes widened, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He lost all signs of life in an instant. Until his death, he still could not believe that Li Changsheng dared to kill him. He was the son of the Shu Mountain sect leader. His status was extremely noble, not to mention that his father was present. At this moment, everyone was dumbfounded. Chapter 321. There were thousands of people in the arena, but there was no sound at all. Even the drop of a needle could be heard. At this moment, Guofu was so scared that she almost collapsed to the ground. She muttered to herself, "How could he be so bold?" Lu Sun, who was sitting on the main seat, was even more stunned. That was his son, and he was killed. How could someone dare to kill his son? Below the stage, Ding Qingyang and his sister were also stunned. That was the son of the Huashan sect leader, but he was killed by Li Changsheng. This time, we really have to fight to the death with the Huashan sect. Ding Qingyang smiled bitterly. Li Changsheng came on behalf of the siblings. Li Changsheng killed the son of the Huashan sect leader, Lu Sun, which was equivalent to them killing someone. Ding Qingyang already felt powerless when facing Sima Changkong. Now that he had offended the Huashan sect, he really felt like crying. The hand of the old man in the arena trembled. He was the person closest to Lu Yuanlang, and also the one who had the most hope of saving him. Now that Lu Yuanlang had died in front of him, if Lu Sun were to blame him, he would not be able to escape the blame. "Demon, give me your life," the old man roared. The sword in his hand was like a golden dragon, piercing towards Li Changsheng. In order to avoid responsibility, he had to kill Li Changsheng to avenge Lu Yuanlang. Only then could he atone for his crime. He was a higher heaven realm expert. The moment he attacked, he was determined to kill Li Changsheng. However, in the face of this shocking sword, Li Changsheng only smiled coldly. Then he raised 2 fingers. When the sword rushed towards Li Changsheng, it was instantly caught by Li Changsheng's 2 fingers, as if it had been calculated. The old man's face was suddenly filled with shock. This was because he found that no matter how hard he tried, the sword in his hand could not penetrate half a step. How is this possible? Inexplicably shocked, he wanted to pull his sword back, but once again he found that his sword seemed to have taken root in Li Changsheng's fingers, and he could not pull it back at all. Everyone was dumbfounded. Although this old man was only at the early stage of the Xiantian realm, he was still at the Xiantian realm after all. The strength of his sword was so great that it was actually caught by Li Changsheng with just 2 fingers. Without giving the crowd too much time to marvel, Li Changsheng's 2 fingers lightly exerted force, and the golden sword broke into 2 pieces with a hoo-la sound. At the same time, Li Changsheng raised his palm and suddenly chopped down. The old man raised his hand to block, but only heard the sound of bones breaking in his arm. Crack! Then, his palm landed on his forehead without any obstruction. Plop! Blood immediately flowed out of his 7 orifices, and he fell to the ground, dead. At this moment, gasps could be heard from the crowd. It's too scary. Too powerful. It's too clean. At this time, Li Changsheng raised his head and looked at Lu Sun, the leader of Mount Hua, as if he had done something insignificant. "I know you want to avenge your son. Now bring it on. Today, I challenge you on behalf of Ding Qingyang and Mount Shu." Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Lu Sun stood up abruptly, and the sword in his hand stopped halfway. The pain of losing his son made him angry, but it did not make him lose his mind. It was one thing for Li Changsheng to kill Lu Yuanlang, but in the battle with the old man just now, he easily killed the old man. All of this showed that Li Changsheng's strength was terrifying, and even Lu Sun was not confident that he could defeat Li Changsheng. "What, you don't dare? Your son was killed by me, but you don't dare to do anything. What a good-for-nothing. Li Changsheng curled his lips, and his eyes were full of mockery. Lu Sun's face immediately grew sullen, but the more arrogant Li Changsheng was, the more he didn't dare to do anything. He took a deep breath and looked at Sima Changkong and Yin Shuangying. Brother Sima, Brother Yin, this demon is extremely arrogant. I suspect that he was sent by the diabolical sex to ruin the Sword Dao meat. Both of you are heroes of the age. Please help me kill him. The Mount Hua sect is willing to give you 2 high-level Dharma artifacts as a reward. Hearing Lu Sun's words, many people exclaimed in shock. 2 high-grade magic tools. This was definitely a big deal. Dharma artifacts were extremely precious in the world of Dao cultivation, especially high-level ones, which were hard to come by. Yet, Lu Sun was offering 2 as a reward. Everyone's eyes were full of envy, and, at the same time, they looked at Li Changsheng with some sighs in their eyes. It was true that Li Changsheng was powerful, and in the opinion of the crowd, Lu Sun's 2 Dharma artifacts would definitely be able to move Sima Changkong and Yin Shuangying. Sima Changkong and Yin Shuangying attacked at the same time. In addition to Huashan's sect master Lu Sun, these 3 big shots of the Sword Dao sect had joined hands. Under the joint attack of these 3 big shots, Li Changsheng had no chance of surviving. However, after Lu Sun offered 2 high-level Dharma artifacts as a reward, Yin Shuangying and Sima Changkong did not react for a long time. After more than 50 seconds, the 2 of them lowered their heads as if they did not hear anything. Brothers, do you think the reward is too little? Lu Sun only thought that the 2 of them wanted to raise the price. He gritted his teeth and said, on top of the 2 high-level Dharma artifacts, how about I add another 60 supreme-grade spirit stones? At this moment, the eyes of many people in the crowd glowed with greed. 60 supreme-grade spirit stones. An ordinary martial arts family would probably not be able to come up with 30 even if they pooled all their resources. Yet Lu Sun offered 60 grams per person, which would be 120 for the 2 of them. He was really putting in a lot of effort. At the same time, the crowd could not help but exclaim that the Mount Hua sect was really rich. The one who felt the most was Yufeng. For 1 supreme-grade spirit stone from Xia Feiyong, he agreed to help Xia Feiyong. Now, the sect leader of Mount Hua sect was offering 60 supreme-grade spirit stones, which made Yufeng feel a little regretful. If it were not for his lack of strength, he would have also participated in the siege of Li Changsheng and made a fortune. He originally thought that with such a high price, Sima Changkong and Yin Shuangying would definitely be tempted. However, after more than 40 seconds, the 2 of them still did not react. Fellow Taoists, Lu Sun was about to raise the price again when he heard Li Changsheng snorting, "Don't waste your breath. It's useless. Even if you give the entire Mount Hua sect to them, they would not dare to make a move on me." What? Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Lu Sun was stunned. He then chuckled, "Kid, I admit that you are strong, but it's not to the extent that Brother Sima and Brother Yin would not dare to make a move." As he spoke, he looked at Sima Changkong and Yin Shuangying. Brother Sima, Brother Yin, did you hear that? This kid did not put you in his eyes at all. If you don't make a move, your reputation will be ruined in the future. However, Sima Changkong and Yin Shuangying still did not react. At this moment, Li Changsheng finally got a little impatient. He looked at Sima Changkong and Yin Shuangying and said loudly, "Sima Changkong, Yin Shuangying, why are the 2 of you acting like ostriches? Let me ask you. The Mount Hua sect leader used artifacts and spirit stones to hire the 2 of you to deal with me. Are the 2 of you going to make a move?" After Li Changsheng finished speaking, Yin Shuangying and Sima Changkong, who had been keeping their heads down, looked up at the same time. Everyone thought that they were angered by Li Changsheng's words and were about to make a move on Li Changsheng. However, the 2 of them trembled and said respectfully, "We don't dare. I don't dare." Chapter 322. As soon as the 2 of them finished speaking, everyone was stunned. What's going on? Lu Sun's face was full of disbelief. He asked loudly, "Brother Sima, Brother Yin, what's going on? Sima Chongkong smiled bitterly and said, My arm was broken by someone. I barely escaped with my life, and the person who cut off my arm was Mr. Li. What? Hearing Sima Chongkong's words, Lu Sun's body swayed. He had also heard about Sima Chongkong's arm being cut off, but he did not expect it to be Li Changsheng. What about you, Brother Yin? Could it be that the person who defeated you was also Li Changsheng? Yin Shuangying smiled bitterly and nodded. Brother Lu, you guessed it right. A few days ago, the person who injured me and scared me into running away was Mr. Li. At this moment, Lu Sun was stunned as if he had been struck by lightning. Everyone in the field was in disbelief. The person who cut off Sima Chongkong's arm and made Yin Shuangying kneel and beg for mercy was actually the same person. It was actually this young man in front of them. Everyone felt as if they were dreaming. On the other side, Guofu bit her lips and her body began to tremble. How could it be him? How could it be him? She could not believe it. Not only her, everyone could not believe it, including Lu Sun. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Lu Sun roared. Sima Chongkong, Yin Shuangying, although I don't know what relationship you have with this kid, do you think I can't avenge my son without your help? Lu Sun roared and stepped out of the fighting ring. His body soared into the air, and a palm-sized flying sword circled around his body. He waved his hands, and every time he waved his hands, the sword aura would expand. After a few hundred rounds, the sword aura became 100 feet long. It whistled through the air and slashed towards Li Changsheng. The sword light was dazzling. At this moment, Lu Sun seemed to have transformed into a peerless sword immortal. Hartswell's sword. This is the treasure of Huashan's sect. At this moment, Ding Qingyang had already stood up in shock. He was not the only one. Many people cried out in surprise. The Rui sword of the Huashan sect is said to be a top-grade magical item. It can be big or small, and it can be controlled according to one's will. However, it needs to be fed with one's own blood. Among the past sect leaders of Mount Hua, there were only a handful who could make the Wishful Heart sword recognize them as its master. Who would have thought that Lu Sun had actually refined the Wishful Heart sword? He didn't even use it during the last Sword Dao meet. He's really good at hiding it. This kid is doomed. Li Changxing's face also showed some surprise. I didn't expect to see a top-grade magic artifact. Although the magic tool is powerful, you're still unable to fully control it with your current strength. You've probably burned your lifespan to use this move, right? However, even if you burn your lifespan, do you really think you can hurt me? You're too naive. Today, I'll let you know what a true sword art is. Li Changsheng closed his fingers and gently raised them. At this moment, a sharp aura arose from his body. He gently swiped his finger in front of him. Hula! There was a thunderous sound in the air. The first move of the 12 sword forms of the Greater Mastery, Extermination. This Rui sword is the treasure of the Huashan sect. It's extremely powerful. Do you think Mr. Li can withstand it? Ding Qingxue looked at her brother, Ding Qingyang, with her eyes full of worry. I don't know either. Even Ding Qingyang sighed. Initially, he was extremely confident in Li Changsheng, but as the successor of the Mount Shu sword sect, he naturally knew what powerful magic tools the Sword Dao sects had. The Rui sword was the most powerful treasure of the Huashan sect. It was a supreme-grade magic tool. In the history of the Huashan sect, there were less than 3 people who could truly control the Rui sword. However, each of them eventually became a sword immortal. Although Lu Sun was still far from being a sword immortal, he was still extremely terrifying when controlling the Rui sword. Although Li Changsheng was powerful, Ding Qingyang was not confident. Not only Ding Qingyang, but even Sima Chongkong and Yin Shuangying were staring at him. They had all personally experienced how powerful Li Changsheng was. However, when Lu Sun used the Rui sword, they did not think that Li Changsheng could win. As for the others, they did not know how terrifying Li Changsheng was. They only thought that Lu Sun would definitely win if he used the Rui sword. As for the 12 styles of the Greater Mastery sword technique that Li Changxing mentioned, it was just a joke in their eyes. However, when the Rui sword slashed down, a sword flash condensed in Li Changxing's hand and stabbed forward. Whoosh! With a loud bang, The sword flash of the Rui sword shattered under Li Changxing's finger. How is this possible? Lu Sun's eyes widened and were filled with shock. However, Li Changxing did not pay attention to him at all. He just moved his finger and condensed another sword flash, stabbing forward. Oof. Even if your spells are unprecedented, you'll still die under my Rui sword. Lu Sun gritted his teeth and suddenly cut his heart with his finger, dripping a few drops of essence blood. The essence blood was integrated into the Rui sword under his guidance. In order to deal with Li Changxing, he activated the secret skill of the Huashan sect. This secret skill burned one's life as the price and could burst forth with power 10 times stronger than one's own strength. Lu Sun was already an expert at the peak of the innate realm. Now that he burst forth with power 10 times stronger, he was almost on par with the Vajra realm. Go to hell. Lu Sun roared and jumped high. His body was shrouded in a layer of bloody light. The sword flash condensed with unparalleled power and suddenly slashed down on Li Changxing's head. The sword seemed to have the power to split heaven and earth. It cut the air in half and vividly displayed the power of the Huashan sect's sword principle. However, Li Changxing was still expressionless. He gently waved his finger forward and the sword flash left his hand. The second style of the 12 sword styles of the Greater Mastery, break through. As Li Changxing's voice fell, the sword flash suddenly burst with an unparalleled radiance. In an instant, Lu Sun's face changed drastically. He felt as if he was facing a towering mountain, and he was an ant trying to shake the mountain. Even if he burst forth with power 100 times stronger, he was still insignificant compared to the mountain. How can it be so powerful? Lu Sun gritted his teeth and slashed down with the sword flash. However, the light of the Rui sword was almost instantly shattered. At the same time, a sword flash penetrated the light and shot straight at his head. Lu Sun was scared out of his wits. He hurriedly turned his body and tilted his head. Suddenly, the sword flash penetrated his shoulder. In an instant, his shoulder was dyed red with blood. His entire body was sent flying by the powerful sword chi. His head hit the ground hard. After the sword flash penetrated his shoulder, it did not fall on a big tree behind him. The tree, which was thick enough for 4 people to wrap their arms around it, burst into a pile of powder. Chapter 323. The release of internal chi is child's play compared to this. This can be called a divine ability. Everyone looked at Li Changxing in a different light. It was too terrifying. He was just like a god. Lu Sun, the sect leader of the Huashan sect, was the champion of the previous Sword Dao meet. He was extremely powerful, and it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was the best among the Sword Dao sections. However, he was still injured by Li Changxing after using the supreme grade Rui sword of the Huashan sect. He's actually so powerful. Lu Sun clutched his shoulder and stood up from the ground. His hair was disheveled, and he looked extremely disheveled. He stared at Li Changxing. Clearly, even with the Rui sword, he was no match for Li Changxing. But shouldn't I take revenge for my son? What should I do? Should I flee or fight? Lu Sun thought quickly. At this moment, a sword light appeared on Li Changxing's fingers again. Where there's life, there's hope. If I die here, who's going to avenge my poor son? Lu Sun made up his mind almost instantly. He stomped his foot on the ground and fled into the distance like an arrow. At the same time, the moment Lu Sun escaped, the Heart's sword flew out from his body. It drew a white line in the sky and slashed towards Li Changxing. He wanted to use the Rui sword to block Li Changxing and buy him time to escape. However, in the face of the incoming Rui sword, Li Changxing simply smiled and opened his palm to gently grab it. All of a sudden, the Rui sword returned to Li Changxing's palm like a fish returning to the sea. The moment it came into contact with Li Changxing's palm, all of its power disappeared and it floated quietly in the middle of Li Changxing's palm. How did this happen? Lu Sun, who was fleeing into the distance, turned around and saw this scene. He was scared out of his wits. For a moment, he realized that he had lost control of the Rui sword. The Rui sword had already recognized him as its master and was connected to him by heart. If he wanted to take the Rui sword away, he would have to kill him and sever the connection. However, it had now inexplicably fallen into Li Changxing's hands. There was only one possibility, and that was that Li Changxing's strength surpassed his by too much. Run! Lu Sun burned his life force at an extremely fast speed, leaving only a series of afterimages in the air. However, just as he was about to disappear into the distance, Li Changxing only slowly raised his hand. A whirlpool appeared, and Lu Sun, who had already flown a few hundred meters away, found that his body seemed to be bound by an invisible string, unable to move forward at all. Then, his body retreated at a speed far faster than when he had fled. In almost the blink of an eye, he had returned to the arena. A cold hand grabbed his neck, and he wanted to break free, but found that half of the true qi in his body had disappeared, and he couldn't use even the slightest bit. This shock was no small matter. It meant that he was now a catfish on the chopping block, a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. It's time for everything to end. Li Changxing's fingers slowly tightened, and with a crack, Lu Sun's head hung limply. Li Changxing let go, and Lu Sun's entire body collapsed to the ground. His eyes were wide open, filled with fear and hatred. This was probably what it meant to die with a grievance. The previous leader of the Sword Dao Alliance, the Huashan sect master, Lu Sun, had died at the hands of Li Changxing. I represent the Ding siblings to compete for the position of the Sword Dao Alliance's leader. If any of you are not convinced, you can come up and challenge me. Li Changxing clapped his hands. Killing the Huashan sect master was like stepping on an ant. His gaze swept across everyone present. Whether it was the experts of the older generation or the elites of the younger generation, all of them lowered their heads, and no one dared to look directly at him. As for the few young men who were on good terms with Lu Yuanlang, they were so scared that their bodies were trembling. Guofu, in particular, lowered his head so hard that it almost reached his crotch. Li Changxing was too terrifying. Even the Huashan sect master had died at his hands. So who would dare to provoke him? Silence, a deathly silence. From the stage to the audience, there were thousands of people present, but no one spoke. Li Changxing's strength had completely shocked everyone. Ding Qingxue and Ding Qingxue were first surprised, then ecstatic. Li Changxing had won, which also meant that they had won. No wonder Li Changxing was so arrogant. It turned out that he had the ability to be arrogant. With the strength that he had just displayed, a mere Huashan sect was nothing. While Ding Qingxue and Ding Qingxue were ecstatic, they finally realized that Li Changxing did not need to keep a low profile at all. Yin Shuangying cupped his hands and said, "Congratulations to Mr. Li for becoming the new leader of the Sword Dao Alliance. Congratulations to Mr. Li. Congratulations to Mr. Li." Following Yin Shuangying's statement, the other sect masters also spoke. Meanwhile, Sima Changkong stood up in a daze and looked at Li Changxing, who was standing in the ring. He knew that, after today, the world of cultivation would change. After a long time, Sima Changkong took a deep breath and stood up. He said to Ding Qingyang and Ding Qingxue, "The winner takes all. After today, I will return Shushan to you. As for myself, I will be at your disposal." Hearing Sima Changkong's words, Ding Qingxue and Ding Qingxue were in disbelief. They had really taken back Shu Mountain sect. It was not until a long time later that she calmed down and asked, "Brother, how should we deal with him?" Hearing his sister's words, Ding Qingyang looked at Sima Changkong and finally sighed. Although Sima Changkong had angered their master to death and seized the position of Shu Mountain sect master, he was still their uncle master. At this moment, they realized that they could no longer hate Sima Changkong. Therefore, Ding Qingyang looked at Li Changxing. "Mr. Li, it's up to you." "All right." Li Changxing nodded and looked at Sima Changkong. "You can't be the Shu Mountain sect master anymore, but I heard from Ding Qingyang that you have a lot of power in the secular world. Then, go to the secular world and be a rich man." Hearing Li Changxing's words, Sima Changkong was in disbelief. He originally thought that Li Changsheng would definitely kill him, but he did not expect that he would only ask him to hand over the position of Shu Mountain Sect Master. A moment later, he reacted and cupped his hands. "Thank you, Mr. Li, for not killing me." After dealing with Sima Changkong, Li Changsheng looked at Guofu and the few young men at the banquet that day. Although Li Changsheng sometimes disdained to bicker with these ants, these people had followed Lu Yuanlang to commit crimes. Who knew how many bad things they had done, especially that Guofu? Li Changsheng hated this kind of vicious woman the most. When Li Changsheng glanced at them, these people were scared out of their wits and knelt on the ground one by one. "Mr. Li, please spare us. Mr. Li, please spare us." They were really scared out of their wits. Chapter 3:24. You people are aiding the evildoer and doing evil. I should have taken your lives, but the heavens are virtuous. I can't be bothered to argue with you ants. Cut off a finger each. Yes, these people did not dare to say more. Li Changsheng spared their lives, which was already a great kindness. So they cut off their fingers one by one. They were not ordinary playboys. They were martial artists. Although they were in pain, none of them made a sound. Only Guofu looked at her slender hand and did not do anything. Li Changsheng sneered, "Since you can't do it, then change the punishment." Guofu raised her head, her face showing joy, thinking that Li Changsheng had the idea of showing mercy to her. She hurriedly said, "Sir, why don't you punish me to stay by your side and be your maid, warm your bed, massage your back?" Hearing Guofu's words, Ding Qingxue, who was next to her, could not help but be disappointed. Her childhood friend had actually fallen to such an extent. "I don't lack maids, and I don't need you to warm my bed. My punishment for you is 10 years of your life." "What do you mean?" Guofu was stunned. Could it be that this Mr. Li can take away my lifespan? Although there were many spells in the cultivation world, she had never heard of such a spell. Not only Guofu, but the people around also looked puzzled. However, Li Changxing did not talk nonsense and directly reached out to grab Guofu's head. "Don't kill me." Guofu thought that Li Changxing was going to kill her. She screamed in fear and closed her eyes. However, after a few seconds, she did not feel any pain. When she opened her eyes, she saw that Li Changsheng had already taken his hand back. So he was just scaring me. Guofu breathed a sigh of relief, but soon found that the people around her were looking at her strangely. Their eyes were full of pity and surprise. "What's going on?" Guofu subconsciously lowered her head to look at her palm, but she instantly screamed out loud and fell to the ground with a thump. The skin on her hands was dull and full of wrinkles. She took out a mirror from her pocket. When she saw her face clearly, she was stunned. Her face had really aged a lot. 10 years of lifespan. You really took away 10 years of my lifespan. Guofu screamed hysterically. It was a woman's nature to love beauty, but now Li Changsheng had taken away 10 years of her life, which made her lose her mind in an instant. "You made me lose 10 years of my life. I'm going to kill you." She bared her fangs and brandished her claws as she charged towards Li Changsheng. Before he could get close, Li Changsheng grabbed him by the neck and lifted him off the ground. Suddenly, Guofu felt a sense of suffocation, but no matter how she struggled, she couldn't break free from Li Changsheng's grasp. "You shrew, taking 10 years of your lifespan is already being lenient. If you dare to say another word, I'll kill you." After saying that, Li Changsheng released his grip, and Guofu fell to the ground, panting heavily. Her eyes were filled with fear, but she no longer dared to do anything to Li Changsheng. After Guofu's incident, everyone looked at Li Changsheng with fear. It was simply too terrifying. It could actually take away a person's lifespan, which was simply unheard of. The few young men who had their fingers cut off heaved a sigh of relief. Compared to 10 years of lifespan, a finger didn't seem so important. To be able to take away a person's lifespan at will, this is a divine ability. Yin Shuangying sighed. Perhaps only the Vajra realm martial experts could use such a divine ability. The Vajra realm was known to have an indestructible body and was also the pinnacle of martial arts. This time, Yin Shuangying was completely convinced. Mr. Li has become the leader of the Sword Dao Alliance. According to tradition, the inauguration ceremony will be held in 3 months. May I know where Mr. Li is going to hold the ceremony? A Sword Dao family's patriarch asked. Generally, the inauguration ceremony of the Sword Dao Alliance's leader was designated by the previous leader, and then the cultivators in the world of cultivation were invited to attend the ceremony. However, the previous leader, Lu Sun, had been killed by Li Changsheng, so it could only be decided by Li Changsheng himself. Then let's hold it in the Mount Shu sword sect, Li Changsheng said. He represented Mount Shu, and holding it in the Mount Shu sword sect could also increase the prestige of Mount Shu. Ding Qingyang and his sister were about to take over the power of Mount Shu, and Li Changsheng's move was also to cheer them on. Sure enough, after hearing Li Changsheng's words, Ding Qingyang and his sister showed gratitude at the same time. The others present also looked at the brother and sister with envy, thinking that Mount Shu had really found a backer this time. Well, then we'll start preparing for Mr. Li's inauguration ceremony from today onward. The Sword Dao family's patriarch cupped his hands and said, every inauguration ceremony was organized by their family. After the preparations were completed, the new leader would take out a portion of the alliance's funds as a reward. This martial Dao family relied on these rewards to maintain their livelihood. Therefore, even though he used to be loyal to Lu Sun, the sect master of the Manhua sect, he immediately came to curry favor with Li Changsheng after Lu Sun's death, because if he didn't do so, the entire family would not be able to survive. Well, I'll leave the inauguration ceremony to you guys. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. After saying that, Li Changsheng directly stepped out of the venue. It wasn't until Li Changsheng's figure disappeared from everyone's sight that the crowd came to their senses. The new leader had left just like that. However, everyone soon turned their attention to Ding Qingyang and his sister. The new leader had left, but Ding Qingyang and his sister were the new leader's trusted aides. All of a sudden, the sect masters of various sects gathered around, which made Ding Qingyang and his sister feel extremely conflicted. At that time, when they had just entered, even his master's old friends pretended not to know them. But now, they had become the object of worship of tens of thousands of people. It was hard to say what fate they would encounter in life, but all of this was thanks to Li Changsheng. After leaving Lonely Mountain Town, Li Changsheng directly took a taxi back to Qingzhou. He knew that Ding Qingyang and his sister would be very busy after taking over as the sect master of Mount Shu, so he didn't ask them to send him off. After returning to the villa in Qingzhou, Li Changsheng took out the medicinal herbs and ginseng that he had obtained from Yin Shuangying in his Qinquan bag and counted them, as well as his previous inventory. He roughly calculated that he should be able to refine a furnace of elixirs. Thus, Li Changsheng took out the alchemy furnace, threw the medicinal herbs into it, and began to refine the elixirs. This time, the alchemy went very smoothly. Soon, a golden dragon pill was refined. After taking the golden dragon pill, Li Changsheng felt a warm current flowing through his body. After a long time, when he had completely refined the elixir, a trace of joy appeared on his face. I've broken through to the mid-stage of the innate realm. However, at the same time, he frowned. Although he could break through to the next level quickly by taking one elixir, he knew that the more he advanced, the more terrifying the spirit chi his body needed. When the time came, he was afraid that he would need hundreds of such golden dragon pills to accumulate one level. One had to know that the spirit chi in the other world was scarce. How many ginseng and natural treasures would he need to consume to produce hundreds of golden dragon pills? He was afraid that even if Su Xiaolin, Qi Yu, and the others combined all their wealth to buy medicinal herbs, it wouldn't be enough for him to break through to the next level. This is really troublesome. Li Changsheng rubbed his temples and then took out the heart wishful sword that he had taken from Lu Sun. The palm-sized heart wishful sword was like a swimming fish at the moment, constantly rolling around in Li Changsheng's palm. The heart wishful sword was indeed very spiritual. In Li Changsheng's opinion, This kind of spirituality was not something that a top-grade magic weapon should have. I'm afraid that the heart wishful sword is not as simple as it seems. Li Changsheng was exploring the secrets of the heart wishful sword when his phone suddenly rang. He saw that it was Yu Wei calling. After answering the call, he heard Yu Wei's anxious voice coming from the phone. Changsheng, where are you? I encountered something. Chapter 325. Don't worry. Tell me slowly. What happened to you? Li Changsheng said softly. I was shopping with my friends and accidentally broke a jade bracelet. They wanted to pay for it, but I don't have any money. I don't dare to call my parents, so I can only call you. Where are you? Li Changsheng asked. I'm in a jade shop outside Tianyi Square. Okay, I'll be there right away. Li Changsheng hung up the phone, went out, took a taxi, and went straight to Tianyi Square. When he arrived at Tianyi Square, he saw Yu Wei standing there with her head down. Opposite her, a fat woman was pointing at her nose and scolding her loudly. Next to Yu Wei was a girl about the same age as her. She must be the friend that Yu Wei was talking about. My bracelet is very expensive. You're just a country bumpkin. You were careless when you looked at it. Now that it's broken, what do you think you should do? It's useless to lower your head and pretend to be pitiful. If you don't pay for my bracelet today, don't even think about leaving. The fat woman looked aggressive, while Yu Wei lowered her head and didn't speak. What's going on? At this time, Li Changsheng walked in and asked. Hearing Li Changsheng's voice, Yu Wei immediately raised her head and looked surprised. The fat woman looked Li Changsheng up and down. When she saw Li Changsheng's clothes, she couldn't help but look at him with disdain. I thought the pretty girl's boyfriend was a rich second generation. It turns out that he's a country bumpkin. After that, he pointed to a jade bracelet on the counter and said, Your girlfriend broke my jade bracelet. You must compensate me according to the price. Oh, how much is this jade bracelet? Li Changsheng's face showed a bit of playfulness. He saw the jade bracelet as soon as he came in. He saw the traces of glue on the jade bracelet and immediately understood what was going on. It was obvious that the jade bracelet had been broken before and had been glued back together. This meant that it was a trap. Only a young girl like Yu Wei would be so easily fooled. This jade bracelet costs 300,000. The fat woman said coldly. Yu Wei's expression immediately changed. 300,000. Even if her family went bankrupt, they wouldn't be able to afford it. What jade is this? 300,000? Why don't you go rob a bank? Li Changsheng said coldly. When the fat woman heard this, her face immediately darkened. Kid, what are you talking about? Your girlfriend broke the jade bracelet. Don't you want to accompany her? As soon as he finished speaking, he saw a silver BMW 5 Series stop at the entrance. Then a bald man wearing a big gold chain got out. The bald man pushed the door open and walked in aggressively. As soon as he entered the door, he shouted, Who is it? Who's making trouble in my shop? When the fat woman saw the bald man, she immediately went up to him as if she had seen her own father. Brother Wong, you're finally here. This is the girl who broke the jade bracelet. This is her boyfriend. He doesn't want to pay for it. He said that our jade bracelet is too expensive. What? Brother Wong looked at Li Changsheng from head to toe. He threw the BMW car key on the counter and stared at Li Changsheng with his hands on his waist. His face was almost touching Li Changsheng's face. He bared his teeth and asked, What? You said that my jade bracelet is too expensive. Do you mean that you don't want to pay for it? I didn't say that I don't want to pay for it. It's just that this jade bracelet isn't worth 300,000. Li Changsheng said lightly. However, in the eyes of others, he was obviously scared. The woman who came with Yu Wei couldn't help but shake her head in disappointment. Usually, when Yu Wei talked to her about Li Changsheng, she always had a look of worship. She said how excellent Li Changsheng was, which made her subconsciously think that as long as Yu Wei's boyfriend came, everything would be solved. But when Li Changsheng appeared and she saw Li Changsheng's appearance, she was disappointed. It was very different from the image she imagined. Li Changsheng's current performance made her even more disappointed. She felt that it was not worth it for her good friend. In the school, there were a lot of rich children who pursued Yu Wei, but Yue chose such an ordinary boy. If you don't have money, don't pretend to be a wolf in front of me. If you don't have 300,000, this girl is very beautiful. Let her sleep with me and the bracelet will be over. What do you think? I don't think you have any opinions. A coward like you, ugly and poor, can't even take out 30,000, let alone 300,000. As he spoke, he looked at Yue with a smile. The more he looked, the brighter his eyes became. He couldn't help but want to reach out and touch Yue's cheek. Just as he reached out, Li Changsheng slapped him to the side. Suddenly, the bald man's face showed a bit of anger. Yo, boy, you dare to hit me. A trace of satisfaction finally appeared on the face of the woman who came with Yue. She thought that Yue's boyfriend wasn't completely useless after all. But soon, her eyes darkened. This was because Li Changsheng's physique and the bald man's physique were not on the same level. In her opinion, even if Li Changsheng could beat the bald man, he had to pay for the broken bracelet. Even if the bald man wanted to blackmail them, there was nothing they could do. No matter where they went, they were in the wrong. The bald man rolled up his sleeves and clenched his fists. Obviously, he planned to deal with Li Changsheng first. At this time, Li Changsheng said, "Didn't you say that this bracelet is worth 300,000? Okay, I'll buy it." What? When Li Changsheng said that, the bald man thought that he had heard wrong. The fat woman screamed, "You're so poor. You could take out 300,000? Dream on." Even Yue's classmate couldn't help but shake her head. In her opinion, Li Changsheng was afraid that the bald man would beat him up, so he blurted it out. But if he couldn't take out 300,000, the final result couldn't be changed. Isn't it just 300,000? I'll give it to you now, but I'm afraid you won't have the life to spend it. Li Changsheng said coldly. He took out a bank card from his pocket and put on the counter. Swipe. Oh, this young man has a temper. Who are you trying to scare with a broken bank card? Can a poor boy like you really take out 300,000? The fat woman took Li Changsheng's bank card and swiped it on the POS machine. Then, she pointed at Li Changsheng and said, "Enter the password." 61. Li Changsheng said. The fat woman curled her lips and poked the machine 6 times. Then, she saw the card swipe receipt printed out, showing that the card was swiped successfully. There really is 300,000. Not only the fat woman, but even the bald man and Yue's classmate opened their eyes wide. They never thought that Li Changsheng could really take out 300,000 in such ordinary clothes. Humph. Boy, you really don't show off. The bald man licked his lips with some regret. He threw the card to Li Changsheng and waved his hand. Get out. Chapter 326. Who knew that after he finished speaking, Li Changsheng would not move? What? What are you waiting for? Are you waiting for me to treat you to supper? The bald man couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. However, Li Changsheng completely ignored his words. Instead, he pointed at the bracelet and asked, "Since I bought this bracelet, it should be mine now, right?" Of course. The bald man chuckled. Go back and find a professional to fix it. He can make it flawless. Although it's broken, it's still worth 300,000 yuan. After the bald man finished speaking, Li Changsheng shook his head. What I mean is, since it's mine, I'll smash it so that you don't have to use it to blackmail people. Who are you calling blackmailing people? The bald man was about to explode. The fat woman also screamed, "Little bastard, watch your mouth. Be careful or you won't be able to leave this door today." However, Li Changsheng didn't seem to hear them. He directly took the bracelet from the glass display case and threw it on the ground. Then he took out the fire extinguisher from the fire hydrant next to him and smashed it on the bracelet. This time, he used so much force that the bracelet was directly smashed into pieces. The pieces flew up. The bald man was also stunned by Li Changsheng's actions. However, he quickly reacted and said angrily, "Boy, it's fine if you smash the bracelet, but if you break my floor, you have to pay for it." "Oh, is that so? How much is the floor?" Li Changsheng's face was a bit playful. 1,000 yuan per piece. Okay. Li Changsheng nodded and then lowered his head. 1234, he began to count. The bald man was suddenly stunned. "What are you counting?" Even the fat woman and Yu Youwei's classmate were puzzled. At this time, Li Changsheng said, "There are a total of 200 bricks. 1,000 yuan per piece, so that's 200,000 yuan." As he spoke, he picked up the fire extinguisher and smashed it on another brick next to him. Crack! A pit suddenly appeared on the ground. "What are you doing?" The bald man hurriedly grabbed Li Changsheng's arm. "Didn't you say 1,000 for a brick? It's 200 bricks. The total is 200,000 yuan. I'll buy it." "Do you have 200,000? You bought it?" the bald man said loudly. "You can swipe and see." Li Changsheng bared his teeth and smiled. The bald man suddenly had a bad feeling. He took Li Changsheng's bank card with trembling hands and handed it to the fat woman. After the fat woman entered 6 ones, she actually swiped her card successfully. 200,000 plus the 300,000 from before, Li Changsheng's card already had 500,000. The bald man suddenly felt a little nervous. For a young man in his 20s to be able to throw out 500,000 so casually, his identity was definitely not ordinary. The baldy still wanted to say something, but Li Changsheng had already started smashing. Bang, 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 bang. Soon, all the tiles in the shop were smashed into pieces. At this moment, Li Changsheng stretched his waist and turned to look at the counter. "By the way, how much is the total of these jewelry in the shop?" Hearing Li Changsheng's words, the fat woman and the bald man were dumbfounded. What does this mean? Is he going to smash the whole shop? As soon as this thought arose, Li Changsheng picked up the fire extinguisher and smashed it on the counter. Suddenly, the glass and jewelry were broken into pieces. "No matter how much this shop is worth, I'll buy it." As soon as he finished speaking, he smashed the surrounding counters with the fire extinguisher. The gold and silver jewelry inside, especially the many jade stones, were smashed into pieces by him. Seeing this scene, the bald man and the fat woman were stunned. Yu Youwei's classmate was also dumbfounded. What was a nouveau riche? This was what a nouveau riche was. He bought the whole shop without saying a word and then smashed it. After smashing all the glass, Li Changsheng straightened up. Then he glanced at the fat woman and the bald man and asked, "Which one of you will go first?" "What do you mean?" The bald man and the fat woman were a little confused. "The jewelry has been bought and the shop has been smashed. Next, it's your turn." Hearing Li Changsheng's words, the bald man was furious. "Boy, don't push your luck. Don't think that I'm afraid of you just because you have some money." The fat woman also screamed, "That's right. I'm worth 1 billion yuan. Can you afford it?" "Of course I can afford it." Li Changsheng pointed to the bank card in the fat woman's hand and said, "If I remember correctly, there should be more than 100 billion yuan in this card. I thought it would cost 10 billion yuan to smash you. I didn't expect it to be so cheap. 100 billion yuan?" The fat woman and the bald man trembled at the same time, and their hearts suddenly jumped. They knew that they had really kicked an iron plate this time, and it was a very thick iron plate that even bullets could not penetrate. Yu Youwei's classmate widened his eyes completely and thought to himself, "No wonder Yu Youwei usually looks like a little fangirl when it comes to her boyfriend. It turns out that her boyfriend is so unique, so cool, and most importantly, so rich." At this moment, when Li Changsheng walked toward the bald man step by step with the fire extinguisher, the bald man was so scared that he took 3 steps back and stammered, What do you want to do?" Don't be fooled by the bald-headed man's aggressive appearance when he came in. At best, he was just a hooligan. The most money he had ever seen was in the millions. Li Changsheng had hundreds of billions in his card. How could he not be afraid? Perhaps Li Changsheng didn't look like much, but it would be as easy as moving a finger to kill him with this 100 billion. "What do I want to do? Of course I want to hit you." Li Changsheng suddenly swung the fire extinguisher. Bang! It directly hit the bald man's head. The fire extinguisher fell and blood flowed down the bald man's head. Then, the bald man's eyes rolled and he collapsed to the ground. At this moment, Li Changsheng looked at the fat woman. The fat woman was so scared that she collapsed to the ground and cried. "Sir, I was wrong. Don't hit me. I'll transfer it all back for you." The fat woman did not dare to take Li Changsheng's money anymore. She just wanted to return the money as soon as possible and send this god of plague away. With Li Changsheng's power, she was afraid that, as Li Changsheng said, she would not be alive to spend the money even if she had the life to take it. Okay, you can transfer it. Li Changsheng helped Yu Wei vent her anger. After hitting the bald man, his anger subsided a lot. The fat woman hurriedly transferred the money back to Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng took the card from her hand and said coldly, "Slap yourself 200 times as your punishment." Yes, yes. The fat woman did not dare to disobey. She immediately slapped herself on the cheek. At this moment, Li Changsheng had already walked over and held Yu Wei's hand. He said with a smile, "It's almost noon. You haven't eaten yet, right? What do you want to eat? I'll treat you to everything today to help you get over your shock." "I want to eat malatang." Yu Wei's eyes narrowed into crescents. "And I want to eat double." The female classmate next to her could not help but roll her eyes. She thought to herself, "Your boyfriend is so rich, but you want to eat malatang." However, she was slightly jealous and thought to herself, "If only I had such a boyfriend." Chapter 327. After seeing Li Changsheng leave with Yu Wei, the fat woman patted her chest with lingering fear. She stood up from the ground and muttered, "That scared me to death." As she spoke, she snorted at the bald man who was lying on the ground with blood flowing out of his head. "Hey, get up. They're gone. Stop pretending," she shouted. Seeing that the bald man didn't respond, she shouted again, "All right, you're addicted to acting. Get up quickly. That devil is gone." However, the bald man still didn't respond. "What's going on?" The fat woman frowned and put her hand on the bald man's nose. "He's still breathing. Fortunately, he's still breathing," she thought, and tried to pinch the bald man's philtrum. Sure enough, the bald man slowly woke up. The fat woman couldn't help but tease, "Bald man, you're too weak. He actually knocked you out." The bald man wiped the blood on his head and said with a grimace, "I didn't expect Li Changsheng to be so cruel. He actually threw a fire extinguisher at me. In order to not expose himself, I didn't dare to use magic in front of him. It hurts." The fat woman couldn't help but laugh out loud, taking pleasure in his misfortune. "All right, what are you laughing about?" However, we didn't get nothing this time. It shows that Yu Wei is indeed Li Changsheng's weakness. "That's right." The fat woman nodded. "We should be able to report to the Great Elder. Li Changsheng killed our Huashan sect's leader. Every disciple of our Huashan sect is absolutely irreconcilable with him. However, he's too strong. The Great Elder wants us to capture his family and threaten him. Then, we'll find a way to force him to submit." When we left, Li Changsheng said that he was going to bring a girl to eat malatang. "We'll go directly to the girl's house and wait. Once Li Changsheng and the girl are separated, we'll capture the girl," the fat woman said. The bald man nodded. The two closed the shop and walked toward Yu Wei's neighborhood. Before this, the two had already figured out Yu Wei's background. Li Changsheng took Yu Wei and her husband to walk around the streets in the afternoon. In the evening, they took a taxi and sent Yu Wei home. After watching Yu Wei go upstairs, Li Changsheng's eyes suddenly turned cold as he looked around the building. There was only the dim light and the chirping of insects. However, in Li Changsheng's mind, he could clearly see two red dots of light. They were like raging flames burning in the darkness, incomparably eye-catching. This was the difference between cultivators and ordinary people. Cultivators' chi and blood were many times more vigorous than ordinary people's, so it was very easy to tell the difference. "You must be tired after standing guard here for an entire day. Please show yourselves," Li Changsheng said coldly. After a dozen seconds, Li Changsheng could not help but shake his head when there was no reaction from the surroundings. "Since you don't want to come out, I can only force you to come out." After saying that, Li Changsheng began to walk in a certain direction. After taking a few steps, he heard a whoosh and two figures jumped out. They were the fat woman and the bald man from the jewelry shop during the day. "When did you notice us?" the bald man asked in a deep voice. "I knew you were from Huashan sect the moment I entered the jewelry shop." "How is that possible?" The bald man and the fat woman were in disbelief. We took the secret aura-concealing pill of our sect. As long as we don't use our true chi, no one can detect us. Indeed, I didn't notice that you were cultivators, but your eyes betrayed you. It said that the eyes are the windows to the soul. It's impossible for an ordinary person to have a pair of eyes that are filled with sharpness. Those who have such eyes are either heinous criminals or sword cultivators. Among the people I've offended recently, it seems that only the Huashan sect is a sword cultivator sect. You're very smart. It seems that we've underestimated you. The bald man and the fat woman's expressions were somewhat ugly. Firstly, it was because Li Changsheng saw through their identities. Secondly, it was because Li Changsheng clearly knew their identities and played along with them. He took the fire extinguisher and hit the bald man on the head, while the fat woman slapped herself 200 times. At this moment, they were angry because they were played. I killed the Huashan sect leader. It's understandable that you came to avenge your sect leader, but you shouldn't have targeted my girlfriend. In an instant, Li Changsheng's eyes turned cold. He was ready to kill. The bald man and the fat woman looked at each other and stepped on the ground almost at the same time. However, they did not attack Li Changsheng. Instead, they fled like frightened birds. Li Changsheng could even kill the Huashan sect leader. The two of them were just two hall masters of Huashan sect. How could they be a match for Li Changsheng? You want to run? It's not that easy. Li Changsheng also chased after them. Just as he moved, a beam of sword light appeared out of thin air. You finally couldn't help but make a move. At this moment, Li Changsheng's footsteps were light. He turned his head and dodged lightly, causing the sword light to land on empty air. At the same time, he threw out a palm and pressed it on the opponent's chest. Immediately, the black figure spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. He landed 5 meters away from Li Changsheng. It was an old man holding a long sword in his hand. His hand was trembling slightly. He clutched his chest, and there was a look of horror in his eyes. At this moment, the bald man and the fat woman who had escaped returned. When they saw this scene, their faces were filled with shock. They did not expect that they had worked together to put on a show. They used the two of them to escape and distract Li Changsheng for the Great Elder to launch a sneak attack. However, it seemed that it was a complete failure. It's a pity that you don't become actors since you like acting so much. Li Changsheng sneered, seeing the three of them faintly surrounding him in a triangle. He could not help but shake his head gently. Even your sect leader died in my hands. You want to deal with me? What a joke. As soon as he finished speaking, he raised his hand and attacked the old man in black. The old man also raised his sword and stabbed at Li Changsheng. However, under Li Changsheng's palm, the sword was instantly broken from the middle. Then, Li Changsheng's hand directly grabbed the black-clothed old man's neck. With a crisp crack, the black-clothed old man's body fell limply to the ground with a plop. He had been insta-killed by Li Changsheng. The fat woman and the bald man gasped at the same time. This black-clothed old man was the great elder of the Huashan sect, especially that treasured sword. It was made of refined steel and could cut through iron like mud. Even a steel plate could be pierced through. But now, it had been broken by Li Changsheng's palm. Was he still human? Run! The bald man and the fat woman instantly turned into afterimages and fled in different directions. This time, they were not playing tricks. They were really running away. Li Changsheng was too terrifying. Fighting with Li Changsheng was no different from seeking death. Looking at the direction where the two fled, Li Changsheng sneered. He did not move. He just casually pointed 2 fingers and 2 rays of sword chi flew in the air. The woman who had fled 100 meters away suddenly heard the sound of air being torn apart behind her. She turned around and raised her sword to meet the attack. However, she saw a ray of sword chi expanding in her eyes. Then, her entire head exploded into a bloody mist. Until her death, she could not understand how someone's sword chi could fly 100 meters away to kill people. Her companion, the bald man, also heard the sound of the sword chi. However, he did not turn around at all. Instead, he unleashed his potential and ran as far as he could. However, his fate did not change. A ray of sword chi pierced through his back and directly destroyed his heart. The three people from the Huashan sect originally wanted to capture Yu Yue to threaten Li Changsheng. Now, they were all dead at the hands of Li Changsheng. However, after killing the three people, Li Changsheng did not relax. Instead, his eyes became more serious. Since the Huashan sect could make a move on Yu Yue, they could also make a move on the people around him. Jiang Tao and the others in the dormitory, as well as Chu Yaotian. At the same time, a cold, killing intent flashed in his eyes. The Huashan sect had crossed his bottom line. Chapter 328. Li Changsheng released his consciousness and shrouded the entire city of Qingzhou. He wanted to see if the Huashan sect had sent any other members to Qingzhou other than those three. However, upon closer inspection, he discovered that there were more than 10 auras belonging to cultivators. 5 of them were the same aura as the 3 disciples of the Huashan sect that Li Changsheng killed. 4 of the auras were gathered together. The other aura was in the downtown area of Qingzhou. Each of them was very powerful, even more so than Lu Sun, the Huashan sect leader that he killed. I didn't expect the Huashan sect to have so many experts. This should be the foundation of a sect. The Huashan sect really went all out to deal with me. Li Changsheng smirked and blended into the night, turning into a shadow and rushing towards the place where the 4 auras gathered. At that moment, in a business hotel in Qingzhou, 4 old men sat quietly on the sofa. Each of them had an aura that was as deep as the sea. Their eyes flashed with killing intent. The Huashan sect has been in the world of cultivators for so many years, and this is the first time that our sect leader has been killed. We must avenge ourselves. The one who spoke was an old man dressed in white. Even his eyebrows were white, but his skin was like that of a baby's, making it impossible to tell his age. At first glance, he looked like he was in his 60s or 70s, but at second glance, he looked like he was in his 30s or 40s. If one were to only look at his skin, one would think that he was a teenager of 16 or 17 years old. He was the leader of the 5 protectors of the Huashan sect. His name was Bai Mei, and he became famous 60 years ago. He was the only one in the Huashan sword sect that was known for his sword skills. Sect leader Liu was an expert at the peak of the innate realm. Furthermore, he was recognized as the master of the heart-wishful sword when he went down the mountain. Yet, he was killed by a young man. I think that must be a trap. Otherwise, there is no way a young man could kill Lu Sun. The one who spoke was a man dressed in red. His name was Chi Yu, and he was also one of the 5 protectors, ranking second. Could it be that someone is plotting against our Huashan? On the surface, it seems that the young man did it, but there is actually someone else behind the scenes. The green-robed old man's name was Greenwood. He carried a wooden sword on his back. Although it was only a wooden sword, it was made from 1,000-year-old thunderstruck wood. In terms of hardness, it was even stronger than ordinary treasured swords. Moreover, if it was supplemented with a wood attribute sword art, it could explode with a very powerful power. According to my investigation, it was indeed done by that Li Changsheng, and that Li Changsheng is only a student of Qingzhou University, not even 20 years old. Bai Mei sighed. Impossible. The other 3 said in unison, "How could a young man under the age of 20 kill Lu Sun? I don't believe it." This is the conclusion I came to after repeated investigations. It can't be wrong. Bai Mei emphasized once more. Perhaps it was an old monster who practiced a technique that allowed him to retain his youth, or perhaps he used some kind of human skin mask to make himself look younger. This is also very normal. The man in black who had been silent all this time said. His name was Xian Yi, one of the 5 guardian kings of Huashan. His swordsmanship was strange and cold, and he was one of the most terrifying among the 5 guardian kings. It doesn't matter if he is an old monster or really not even 20 years old. This time, when we go down the mountain, we must bring his head back. Where is Pejun? Bai Mei frowned. The 5 guardian kings went down the mountain together, but as soon as they entered Qingzhou, Pejun was nowhere to be seen. That guy couldn't hold it in on the mountain. You should be in the nightclub now, Xianyi said coldly. Defeating armies said that Li Changsheng is just a mere Li Changsheng. Tomorrow, he will take his head back. There is nothing to study. Pejun is good at everything, but he is a little too arrogant. Ba Mei shook his head and looked at the other three. I have already sent the Great Elder to catch Li Changsheng's girlfriend. As long as we catch her, Li Changsheng will have to surrender. Hearing Ba Mei's words, Red Feather shook his head. I don't think there is a need to do this at all. Let's just kill Li Changsheng and be done with it. So what if Li Changsheng is powerful? Do you think he can stop the five of us? Red Feather's words received the agreement of the others. Yeah, so what if he can kill Lu Sun? Two of us Guardian Kings are more powerful than the sect leader. When the three of us work together, no Taoist sect can resist us. There is no need to be so scheming. Maybe I'm being too cautious. Hearing their words, Ba Mei also felt that he was being too cautious. At this moment, the door to their room suddenly opened with a creak. Is Pejun back? The four of them looked up at the same time and saw a young man in casual clothes looking at them with a playful expression. You really don't have to be too cautious because it is useless. Li Changsheng walked in and sat down on the sofa. He picked up an apple on the table and started munching on it. At this moment, everyone finally reacted. Who are you? Red Feather frowned and asked. The other party was able to quietly approach their room and open the door without being discovered. This was enough to show that his strength was extraordinary. You should be Mr. Li Changsheng, right? Ba Mei stared fixedly at Li Changsheng. Although he was a cultivator, he was very good at scheming. Otherwise, he wouldn't have sent someone to test Li Changsheng and kidnap Yu Wei, even though he thought he had enough power to deal with Li Changsheng. So you're Li Changsheng. Red Feather and the others' faces instantly turned cold. We were just thinking of taking your head. We didn't expect you to come here and die. Red Feather instantly clenched the long sword in his hand. You seem to be very confident in your strength. Li Changsheng smiled faintly. In the blink of an eye, he had already eaten half of the apple. Of course, we are the Guardian Kings of Mount Hua sect. Each of us is stronger than Sect Master Lu Sun. Now that all five of us have come down the mountain at the same time, we will slaughter you like a dog. Red Feather narrowed his eyes and stared at Li Changsheng. He was indeed shocked when Li Changsheng came in just now. However, he had calmed down now. So what if Li Changsheng was powerful? 4 of the 5 Guardian Kings were here. He did not believe that Li Changsheng could overturn the situation. At this moment, Ba Mei finally spoke after a few minutes of silence. It seems that the Great Elder of Mount Hua and 2 other disciples have died in your hands. I originally thought that this was a well-planned operation, but I didn't expect it to fail. However, this doesn't affect anything. It was just a casual move. Since you're here tonight, there's no need for you to leave. Hearing Ba Mei's words, the others looked at Li Changsheng with a sneer. In their opinion, Li Changsheng was like a sparrow that had broken into a cage. Even if he had wings, he could not escape. Chapter 3:29. You keep saying that you don't take me seriously, but you're secretly accumulating your strength. You're brewing a sure kill attack, aren't you? When Li Changsheng finally finished eating the fruit, he threw the core into the trash can with a playful look on his face. Ba Mei's expression changed when he heard that. In fact, he had never underestimated Li Changsheng. It was one thing for Lu Sun to be killed by Li Changsheng, but Lu Sun was recognized as the owner of the Heart Wishful Sword. According to his investigation, the Heart Wishful Sword was in Li Changsheng's hands. No one knew the power of the Heart Wishful Sword better than he did. Ever since Li Changsheng entered, he had been secretly accumulating his strength and brewing a sure kill attack. However, he did not expect that Li Changsheng would see through him. However, he soon smiled because his spell had succeeded. Go to hell. At this moment, Ba Mei suddenly raised his head. His palm enlarged countless times and slapped down on Li Changsheng's head. At the same time, the other 3, Qiyu, Qingmu, and Xianyi, also attacked together. 3 streaks of sword light and a huge palm with a whistling sound engulfed Li Changsheng. The 4 of them attacked at the same time. Sword cultivators were known for their offensive power, and the four of them cooperated well. In an instant, the temperature in the entire room became cold. Go to hell. Bai Mei looked smug. In his opinion, Li Changxing had no way to survive such an attack. Boy, it's useless no matter how talented you are. You think you have some strength, but you ran into a trap. You're really stupid. Bai Mei and the others felt that there was no suspense when the palm and sword lights landed on Li Changsheng. However, Li Changsheng sat there without moving, allowing their attacks to land on his body. After that, all of the attacks disappeared the instant they came into contact with Changsheng's body. How could this be? Bai Mei's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. The other three people's faces also changed drastically. The four of them could wipe out most of the cultivation world if they joined forces. However, Li Changsheng had neutralized their attack so easily. Set up the array. The white-brow elder shouted. The others nodded. Their feet moved lightly, and a magic array was instantly set up. At the same time, a sword condensed in the air and it slashed down towards Li Changsheng, bringing with it a mighty sword beam. After witnessing how terrifying Li Changsheng was, Bai Mei and the others did not expect this sword strike to kill Li Changsheng. They only wanted to trap Li Changsheng for 10 minutes and call for defeating armies to return. Only when the five of them worked together to form the 5 elements 8 trigrams formation could they unleash their full strength. Although Li Changxing's strength was terrifying, in their opinion, it wouldn't be difficult for the four of them to delay him for more than 10 minutes. After setting up the array, Bai Mei was thinking of a way to inform defeating armies when he suddenly saw Li Changsheng clenching his fist and punching forward. Boom! Like a huge breach, boundless energy surged out. The carpet under his feet, the coffee table in front of him, and the chandelier above his head instantly shattered. Under the powerful fist force, the array set up by the four of them was instantly torn apart. They spat out blood and retreated with horror in their eyes. Could he be a Vajra realm expert? The four of them were at the peak of the inborn realm. Because they had been cultivating for a long time, they were more powerful than ordinary peak inborn realm experts. Only a Vajra realm expert could break the array set up by the four of them. Since the four of you want to kill me, I'll send you on your way now, Li Changsheng said coldly. With a wave of his hand, a beam of sword light appeared and the four heads flew into the air. You came to this world and died under the sword Dao today. You didn't come to this world in vain. As soon as Li Changsheng finished speaking, he turned around, opened the window, and jumped out. There were a total of 5 experts from the Huashan sect who came to Qingzhou. Now that he had killed 4 of them, there was still one left. Li Changxing naturally wouldn't let him go. At this moment, in a bar somewhere in Qingzhou, because it was late at night, the bar was at its busiest. Crazy music, flashing lights, swaying waists, and surging hormones were playing. At this moment, 2 beautiful women were sitting opposite each other on the second floor of the bar. There were 6 or 7 bottles of beer on the table. If Li Changxing was here, he would recognize the 2 women as people he knew. One was Xiaolin, the daughter of the Qing gang's leader. The other was He Lei, the daughter of Qi Yu's subordinate who left angrily after being reprimanded by Qi Xian because of Li Changxing at the banquet in Suzhou. What Li Changxing didn't expect was that the 2 women came to Qingzhou for him. Xiaolin not only knew Qi Xian, but also He Lei. At first, because Qi Xian liked Xiaolin and He Lei liked Qi Xian, He Lei was somewhat hostile to Xiaolin. However, after knowing that Xiaolin didn't have any feelings for Qi Xian, He Lei stopped being hostile to Xiaolin. What was more coincidental was that the 2 of them came to Qingzhou together tonight and met in the same bar. He couldn't help but sigh at the wonders of fate. He Lei, what are you doing in Qingzhou? As far as I know, you don't have any friends in Qingzhou. Xiaolin took a sip of beer and asked in confusion. I'm here to vent my anger. Brother Xian has always been very tolerant of me, but last time in Suzhou, he actually fell out with me because of a man. That man is studying in Qingzhou. I'm here to find someone to teach him a lesson. Xiaolin abruptly raised her head when she heard He Lei's words. You're not here to find trouble with Li Changsheng, are you? Yes, he's called Li Changsheng. He nodded and then asked in confusion, Xiaolin, how do you know about Li Changsheng? Xiaolin immediately laughed bitterly. I came to Qingzhou for Li Changsheng, but not for revenge, but to learn. He listen to my advice. That Li Changsheng isn't someone you can provoke. What? He chuckled when she heard Xiaolin's words. Miss Xia, you're still the daughter of the Qing gang's leader. How can you say such things to me? I've indeed heard a bit about Li Changsheng. He's very powerful to be able to catch 8 crossbow bolts with his bare hands. But so what? I brought a few experts under my father this time. They can definitely take care of him. It's not that simple. Xiaolin shook her head. Catching 8 crossbow bolts with his bare hands is nothing. Li Changsheng is powerful because he's an immortal cultivator. He knows magic. What did you say? Ha ha ha. He couldn't help but laugh out loud. She laughed so hard that she was rocking back and forth, as if she had heard the funniest joke in the world. I say, Miss Xia, although I know you're obsessed with seeking immortality, I didn't think that your brain would become dull because of this. Immortal magic? There's no such thing as magic in this world. Can you stop teasing me? Other than you, who would believe it? I'm telling the truth. Xiaolin insisted. TSK. He laughed even louder. Chapter 330. At this moment, a very handsome young man in a suit walked over politely. Beautiful ladies, may I have the honor of having a dance with you? The man was very gentlemanly, and his every move was impeccable. However, Ile only had Qi Xin in her heart and was in a bad mood today, so she shook her head. As for Xiaolin, she was obsessed with cultivation and was not interested in other things. She also shook her head, which made the man a little embarrassed. However, he searched the entire bar and found that Xiaolin and He were the prettiest. So he looked at Xiaolin, unwilling to give up. Miss, I seem to have heard you mention cultivators just now. Perhaps I can help you answer some of your doubts, because I am a cultivator. As soon as he spoke, He couldn't help but shake her head, thinking to herself, people nowadays really come up with any excuse to strike up a conversation. On the other hand, Xiaolin's eyes showed some interest. Just as she was about to speak, she heard a cold voice from the side. You are indeed a cultivator, but as the guardian king of Huashan, aren't you a little too unprofessional to abandon your companions and come here to have fun? Who is it? Hearing the voice, the smile on the man's face disappeared, and he turned around vigilantly. He saw a young man in casual clothes walking towards him step by step. The moment the young man appeared, Xiaolin and He stood up almost at the same time and said in surprise, Li Changsheng, you're Li Changsheng? The man suddenly straightened his back and a sharp aura exuded from his body. You're really bold. You know that I'm here to kill you, yet you still dare to show yourself. Huh? Li Changsheng smiled faintly. Just half an hour ago, someone said the same thing to me in the same tone, and they're now corpses. By the way, they should be your 4 companions. What? The man's expression changed abruptly. The next moment, he took a step forward without hesitation. His body directly smashed a hole in the wall on the 2nd floor of the bar and flew out. You're running pretty fast. Li Changxing chuckled, then took a step forward and chased after him like a stream of light. Everyone who witnessed this scene was dumbfounded on the spot, especially He, whose eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He, do you believe me now? Xiaolin said faintly. The more she thought about how powerful Li Changsheng was, the more she regretted it. At this moment, Li Changsheng had already chased after the protector of Huashan, Wang Pajuan, to an unmarked graveyard in the outskirts of Qingzhou. Here, he had lost track of the other party. However, there was no anxiety on his face. Instead, he said coldly, come out. You can't escape. I don't plan on running away anymore. After a cold voice sounded, a sword light descended from the sky. The other party had deliberately lured Li Changsheng here to make use of the environment to kill Li Changsheng. This protector of the Huashan sect cultivated a different way of the sword from the other protectors. He cultivated the way of assassination, and assassins could only unleash their greatest strength in a pitch-black environment like this. Hula. The sword light brought along the sound of the wind as it pierced straight down. The other party's sword was also completely black. It had merged with the darkness. However, in the face of such an attack, Li Changsheng was not afraid at all. Although it was a pitch-black night, under the cover of his divine sense, it was no different from daytime. Li Changsheng raised his hand and gently clenched it. Immediately, the other party's sword was in his hand. How is this possible? Pujuan circulated his true qi. Suddenly, the sword qi rushed out and cut Li Changsheng's hand. However, Li Changsheng's hand was comparable to a divine weapon. The sword qi could not cut through it. How is this possible? Defeating armies' face was filled with horror. He was incomparably confident in his assassination skills, especially the sword light emitted by his sword. Even if it was a 5-centimeter thick steel plate, it would be able to split it in half. However, it actually couldn't cut through Li Changsheng's palm. Moreover, he realized that Li Changsheng was very casual from the beginning to the end. It was as if he did not treat it seriously at all. How can he be so powerful? How can there be such a powerful person? Before he came, Bai Mei had shown him the information about Li Changsheng. It included the battle between Li Changsheng and the Huashan sect leader, Lu Sun. It said that Li Changsheng used 2 fingers to catch the sword. Pujuan did not believe it and thought that the narrator was exaggerating. At this moment, he finally believed it. Li Changsheng, I lost to you today. In the future, I will get back at you. Pujuan let go of his black sword. Then, like a swallow, his body rubbed against the cracked ground and flew away. You want to escape? It's not that easy. Li Changsheng waved his hand. Pujuan's black sword was caught in his hand. Then, he threw it with all his strength. Suddenly, the sword drew an afterimage in the sky and flew in the direction Pujuan had flown. Whoosh! That was the sound of the sword cutting through the air. Pujuan, who had already fled far away, was shocked when he heard the sound of the sword qi. His body suddenly turned 90 degrees and flew in another direction. This time, even Li Changsheng's face revealed a hint of surprise. Being able to stop his body from turning while flying at such a high speed was not something an ordinary person could do. It seems that this person is quite capable. Did he think that he could dodge my attack just because he knew how to turn? Too naive. Li Changsheng shook his head and lightly pointed with his hand. Immediately, the black sword that was originally flying towards defeating armies turned around and stabbed towards him like a shadow. Pujuan, who had a smile on his face, suddenly had an extremely ugly expression. How did he do it? It was not difficult to shoot the sword out of its original position. However, controlling the sword to turn after flying out was terrifying. Puchi, the sword light, was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it pierced through Pujuan's body. However, the moment it pierced through his body, another figure flew in another direction. Body substitution technique. Li Changsheng's face was once again filled with shock. This guy has a lot of tricks up his sleeves. Unfortunately, no matter how many tricks he has, he can't escape the suppression of strength. Li Changsheng shook his head and raised his hand. A palm-sized sword was dancing in his palm. It was the heart-willing sword, the most precious treasure of the Huashan sect. After obtaining the heart-willing sword, although Li Changsheng had not had the time to refine it, he could still control it. As the guardian king of the Huashan sect, dying under the sword of my own sect can be considered a worthy death. Li Changsheng muttered to himself. Then he flicked his finger lightly. The heart-willing sword turned into a green light and flew out. In the distance, Pujuan, who had already escaped 7 to 8 miles away, stopped and panted heavily. In order to escape, he had used all the true yuan in his body to reach such a speed. Now, his true yuan had been greatly depleted, and he was unable to continue. Fortunately, I managed to escape. As long as I hide here with my qi concealment technique, no one will be able to find me. I will recover my strength in the morning and escape back to Huashan. This Li Changsheng's strength is too terrifying. He is not someone that we Guardian Kings can deal with. It seems that I will have to ask the Supreme Elder for help. After taking a few breaths, Pujuan, who had recovered slightly, stood up and was about to find a place to hide. Suddenly, He heard the sound of something breaking through the air. Then, a green sword light descended from the sky. It was the heart-willing sword. He did not even have time to react to the appearance of the heart-willing sword before the sword light pierced through his forehead. His body fell straight to the ground. Until his death, the guardian king of the Huashan sect still had a look of disbelief in his eyes. He did not understand how the other party could kill him when he had escaped so far away. Even the legendary 100 Steps flying sword was not as terrifying as this. Chapter 331. The 5 protectors of the Huashan sect had all died at the hands of Li Changsheng. The next day, someone found 4 corpses in a business hotel, which immediately caused a stir in Qingzhou. However, no matter how much they investigated, they could not find the identities of the 4 corpses, and it became a murder case. Just as the matter of the protectors became a hot topic and caused a stir in Qingzhou, Li Changsheng was already on his way to the Huashan sect. After this incident, Li Changsheng knew that if he did not clean up the Huashan sect, he would not be able to sleep peacefully. Naturally, he was not afraid of the Huashan sect's revenge, but his family and friends were different. They were all ordinary people, and Li Changsheng could not protect them 24 hours a day. Therefore, he could only solve the problem at the root, which was to beat the Huashan sect into submission or destroy them directly. After living for thousands of years, Li Changsheng had destroyed more than 1 or 2 sections. In this life, he originally wanted to cultivate properly and not be disturbed by the trivial matters of the mortal world. However, he finally understood that once he entered the mortal world, he was not free to do as he wished. Unless he found a remote mountain to cultivate in seclusion, it was impossible for him to not be affected by the mortal world. This time, Li Changsheng did not take a car. Instead, he flew directly to the Huashan sect with the Heart's Will sword. Originally, Li Changsheng's current strength was not enough to fly in the air. However, the Heart's Will sword was a top-grade magic item. Through the sword manipulation technique, he could enjoy the pleasure of flying in advance. The Huashan sect was a famous existence among the sword cultivation sections. Their sect was built on Huashan. Although Huashan sect was now a tourist attraction with hundreds of thousands of tourists visiting every day, the real location of the Huashan sect was not something that ordinary people could find. As soon as Li Changsheng appeared on Huashan, he felt the power of a powerful formation operating. The real mountain of Huashan was built in a valley behind Huashan. The valley was covered by a formation and was surrounded by clouds all year round. Ordinary people could not break in at all. After knowing the exact location of the Huashan sect, Li Changsheng flew directly there. The closer he got, the stronger the power of the formation became. At the same time, he also knew that this was a power that the Huashan sect had deliberately released to warn the cultivators not to get close. If it were any other time, Li Changsheng would naturally leave after receiving such a warning. However, today, he was here to cause trouble for the Huashan sect. Therefore, not only did he not stop, he even sped up. When he was about to reach the Huashan sect's mountain gate, Li Changsheng stopped in midair. He saw a group of people heading towards the Huashan sect on the mountain path below. Could he be a disciple of the Huashan sect? Li Changsheng directly descended from the sky and approached the ground to take a closer look. This was a group of people dressed in modern clothes. They held machetes in their hands, and a few of them were holding hunting rifles. It was unknown how long these people had been trekking on this mountain path. Each of them looked tired, and their walking speed was not fast. When they saw a figure descending from the sky, they were immediately shocked. At the same time, several hunting rifles were aimed at Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng scanned them with his divine sense and found that these people's qi and blood were stronger than ordinary people. Obviously, they were all martial artists. There were even a few martial artists who had reached the peak of internal force. The leader, a middle-aged man, was the most powerful. He was actually a Wu Dao Supreme Master. A Supreme Master Realm expert was definitely a top master in Jianghu. Obviously, this group of people was not ordinary. The leader waved his hand to signal his men to not act rashly. Then, he bowed respectfully to Li Changsheng and said, "Immortal, are you a master from the Huashan sect?" Li Changsheng saw that the old man had an extraordinary aura and was very strong. Furthermore, he did not seem to be a disciple of the Huashan sect. Thus, he restrained the killing intent in his heart and asked, "What are you doing here?" Li Changsheng did not say whether he was a disciple of the Huashan sect or not. However, he did not deny it. In the eyes of the other party, it was a tacit admission. Immediately, his attitude became even more respectful. "We came all the way from the capital because our son is seriously ill. We would like to ask the immortal of the Huashan sect to give us a pill to save our son's life. Since you are asking for a pill from our sect to save your life, do you have any treasures of equivalent value in exchange?" Li Changsheng knew that the cultivation sects nowadays also had to rely on worldly treasures to cultivate in peace. Therefore, if someone came to ask for help, those sects would usually be willing to help. However, the prerequisite was that the other party had to take out treasures that could move them. Since Li Changsheng was here to deal with the people of the Huashan sect, he did not mind taking the treasures that the other party had offered to the Huashan sect. Of course, the middle-aged man nodded and turned around. The crowd automatically opened up a path. He saw a beautiful woman looking at Li Changsheng with a cold expression. "I heard that the son of the sect master of the Huashan sect, Lu Yuanlang, likes beautiful women the most. I brought this woman here as a gift to young Master Lu. Young Master Lu will definitely like her." Li Changsheng was stunned. He did not expect that the treasure that the other party took out would be a beautiful woman. Thinking about Lu Yuanlang's personality, the old man could be considered to have catered to his liking. He could not help but look at the woman from head to toe. This woman had a face that could captivate even birds and beasts. Her skin was as smooth as ice, and she had a unique temperament. However, her face was very cold, and her beautiful eyes were especially indifferent. "Miss, what is your name?" Li Changsheng asked. Unexpectedly, the woman did not answer. She only stared coldly at Li Changsheng. "Yi Shuang, the immortal is asking you a question. Why are you not answering?" The middle-aged man's face became stern. Unexpectedly, the woman still did not answer. She only looked at Li Changsheng with a mocking gaze. This woman was quite interesting. Li Changsheng did not care about the hostility of the woman. Instead, he looked at the middle-aged man. "What illness does your son have that he needs to come here to ask for an elixir?" "My son was born weak and sickly. He has seen many doctors, but they all said that it was a congenital illness that was brought out from his mother's womb. It cannot be cured. Later on, I asked around and found out that there are immortals in the Mount Hua sect. So, I traveled thousands of miles to ask for an elixir." "I see. Then, have you brought your son?" Hearing Li Changsheng's words, the middle-aged man shook his head. "My son's body is too weak. He can't make it thousands of miles. I'm afraid that he will die before he can see the immortal." "I see." Li Changsheng thought for a moment and took out half of an elixir from his heaven-earth pouch. This was half of the elixir that he had wasted during his last alchemy. It was useless to him now, but to ordinary people, it was definitely a miraculous elixir that could bring the dead back to life. "This is an elixir that I made. Take it and treat your son's illness. Leave this woman to me." Li Changsheng waved his hand, and the half of the elixir fell into the middle-aged man's hand. As for the reason why he took the woman in, it was because he saw the shadow of someone in the woman. That person was very important in his countless lives. Chapter 332. This. The middle-aged man looked at the half-pill in Li Changsheng's hand and hesitated. Obviously, he did not believe that the black thing Li Changsheng threw out could save his son's life. However, because of Li Changsheng's status, he did not dare to offend him. Therefore, he stuttered and did not dare to speak. Li Changsheng could tell what the old man was thinking. He sighed and said, "All right, then I'll bring you to meet the immortal of the Mount Hua sect." Although his current location was not far from the Mount Hua sect, with the speed of an ordinary person, he would still need to walk for more than half an hour. After thinking about it, he could not help but sigh. Forget it, I'll just waste some of my mana. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly raised his hand. His palm became tens of feet wide and enveloped the middle-aged man and the others. Immortal, what are you doing? The middle-aged man's face was filled with shock. He subconsciously wanted to resist, but he realized that under the palm, their bodies were bound and they could not move. Then, Li Changxing's palm lifted them up. This is the mountain-moving technique. It's a great magical power. When fully unleashed, I can carry 2 mountains. Now, I'm using it to carry a few people. It's a waste. Li Changsheng sighed. His cultivation level was too low. No matter how powerful the magical power was, he could not unleash its full power. However, in the eyes of the crowd, this spell of his was completely horrifying to the extreme. There were more than 30 people in total. Li Changsheng caught them with one hand. This was too terrifying. In their eyes, it was like a miracle. Even the cold and aloof Yi Shuang revealed a look of surprise in her eyes. Li Changsheng caught these people and flew on his sword. In less than 2 minutes, he arrived at the Mount Hua Sect's entrance. Looking at the gray fog in front of him, Li Changxing knew that behind the fog was the Mount Hua Sect's secret realm. Sir, do we need to bow 3 times and cow down 9 times? Beg the immortal to come out and meet us? The middle-aged man asked. He heard that the immortal of the Mount Hua Sect did not meet people easily. Only those who were sincere could meet them. But after hearing his words, Li Changsheng shook his head. If you want to kneel and kowtow, I won't stop you. However, in my eyes, the people of the Huashan sect are not worthy of kneeling. As soon as he finished speaking, he took a step forward and slowly raised his hand. He was here to cause trouble for the Huashan sect. He had already shed all pretenses of cordiality with the Huashan sect and had even killed their sect leader. Naturally, there was no need for him to be courteous and courteous. In the eyes of others, the fog in front of them was just fog, but in Li Changxing's eyes, it was clearly a large array formation that was constantly operating. The magic array was strong enough to block the attacks of over 10 Xiantian realm cultivators. Moreover, it had completely isolated the Huashan sect's secret plane from the outside world. If it weren't for Li Changsheng, even if the middle-aged man and the others knelt down and kowtowed, the people inside wouldn't know. After Li Changsheng raised his hand, a small sword the size of a palm appeared in his palm and then flew into the air. It was none other than the Mount Hua sect's signature treasure, the Heart-Wishful Sword. At this moment, as Li Changxing's hand moved, a biting cold sword intent was revealed from the sword. The originally hot weather became cold after the flying sword appeared in the sky. The silver-white flying sword turned into a white line in the sky, and it was about to cut the entire mountain in half. Just as the sword light was about to cut the mountain, countless black gas condensed into a transparent shield in front of the sword light. It was the magic array that was actively operating. In response, Li Changsheng only sneered and pushed his spiritual qi. The sword light did not stop and slashed on the black shield. Immediately, a cold and gloomy aura spread out and blocked the sword light slightly. In response, Li Changxing's mind moved, and the flying sword instantly became as soft as water. In the next moment, it became as hard as it could be. It switched between hard and soft, and it kept vibrating according to a certain frequency. Suddenly, the black shield was broken under the sword light. Boom! The entire mountain was shaking. By the time Li Changsheng put the sword away, the magic array in front of him had been broken, revealing his exquisite swordsmanship. I am Li Changsheng, the new leader of the Sword Alliance. I'm here to ask for advice. People of the Huashan sect, come out and accept your death. The moment the magic array was broken, Li Changxing's voice was heard. It was like rolling thunder, reverberating through the clouds. At the same time, Li Changxing rose into the air. His body was suspended in the air, and a powerful aura arose from Li Changxing's body. He stood opposite the entire valley, as if he was the ruler of the entire world. Li Changxing's roar was earth-shattering. Below, the middle-aged man and his subordinates were all stunned. What's going on? He's not a disciple of the Huashan sect. He seems to be an enemy of the Huashan sect. The middle-aged man in the lead felt his legs begin to tremble, and his mind went blank. He had come to Huashan to ask for medicine, but he ended up walking with an enemy of the Huashan sect. If he caused a misunderstanding and the people of the Huashan sect thought that he was with the young man, he would be done for. Why am I so unlucky to have met such a jinx? Everyone else's heart was pounding. Before they came, they did not believe in the existence of immortals. However, after seeing Li Changsheng, they knew that immortals did exist in the world. Now, this immortal was going to fight with the immortals of the Huashan sect. If they, as mortals, were to be caught in the crossfire, they would die a horrible death. Only the cold-looking woman had a complicated look in her eyes. She was surprised, but also seemed to be faintly anticipating something. At that moment, as Li Changsheng's voice fell, the entire Huashan sect was like a flock of birds flying out of the morning fog. Countless figures flew out of the valley. The leader was an old man. He turned into a beam of sword light and slashed at Li Changsheng. At the same time, he let out a furious roar. How dare you break into the Huashan sect's mountain gate? Die! After Li Changsheng broke the array formation of the Huashan sect's mountain gate with a single slash, countless figures flew out. One of the beams of sword light turned into a long rainbow and stabbed at Li Changsheng. It was an old man. His aura was strong, and he was not inferior to the 5 Guardian Kings. As the sword stabbed at him, a sonic boom sounded in the air. However, Li Changsheng only sneered. He raised his palm and smashed it down, shattering the sword light. The old man who rushed up was sent flying by the palm. When he landed, he took 7 or 8 steps back before he could stabilize himself. His eyes were filled with shock. Are you a Vajra realm martial artist? It was no wonder that the other party would ask such a question. He was already at the peak of the innate realm. If he could shatter his sword light with a single palm and push him back, what else could he be but a Vajra realm martial artist? When the surrounding people heard the old man's words, they were all shocked. The Vajra realm was a legendary realm. How old was Li Changsheng? On the other side, the middle-aged man and his subordinates were so scared that they were trembling. This was truly the work of a god. As the saying went, when gods fight, mortals suffer. Only now did they truly understand the meaning of this saying. Meanwhile, the woman's eyes became brighter and brighter. Chapter 333. Li Changsheng, how dare you show up here after killing our sect leader? Seems like you really don't know how to write the word death. Although the old man was surprised by Li Changsheng's strength, he was not afraid. They were at the entrance of the Huashan sect. If he was still afraid in front of his own sect, he wouldn't have needed to fight Li Changsheng. He would have just admitted defeat. Of course I'm brave, but I'm not. I died at the hands of Lu Sun and his son during the sword down meet. I'm afraid my girlfriend has already been taken away by you guys. The 5 Guardian Kings have already beheaded me and brought me back to take credit for it. With every sentence that Li Changsheng said, the faces of the people of the Huashan sect turned sullen. In particular, when Li Changsheng mentioned the 5 Guardian Kings, the old man vaguely had an ominous hunch. What did you do to the 5 Guardian Kings? They joined forces to kill me, and now I'm in front of the Huashan sect. What do you think happened to them? Li Changsheng's voice was somewhat playful. However, as soon as he said that, the old man's expression changed completely. Do you mean you killed the 5 Guardian Kings? The old man's voice trembled a little. The sect leader died at the hands of Li Changsheng, and the sect treasure was taken away by Li Changsheng. Now that even the Guardian Kings were dead, the Huashan sect was going to fall from being a first-rate Taoist sect to a second-rate one. Set up the array. Take him down. The old man knew that killing Li Changsheng was the only way to save the face of the Huashan sect. Otherwise, the Huashan sect would become the laughingstock of the world. He knew that he was definitely no match for Li Changsheng, so he had no choice but to use his trump card. As soon as he finished speaking, the densely packed figures surrounded Li Changsheng. At the same time, all kinds of sword lights formed a sword net in the sky, whistling and spinning as they cut towards Li Changsheng. Under the sword net, countless trees and rocks in the surroundings were instantly turned into dust. Witnessing all of this, the middle-aged man and his subordinates were so scared that they fell to the ground, unable to muster any strength. On the contrary, not only did the cold woman, Yi Shuang, not reveal any fear on her face, she was actually faintly excited. "Continue setting up the formation," shouted the old man. More and more disciples flew out and formed layers of sword techniques. Finally, a sword formation was formed, and 100 zhang long sword light appeared in the sky. As soon as the sword light appeared, the entire world resounded with a sword hum. The disciples of the Huashan sect formed a small sword formation. It was actually a set of combination formations. In the end, they formed a super large formation. When the sword formation was completely completed, the old man finally breathed a sigh of relief. He laughed and said, "Li Changsheng, you are too confident. If you had tried to break the formation, perhaps this peerless formation would not have been completed. None of us would have been able to do anything to you. But you actually waited for the formation to be completed. Now you will die." The sword light fell like a heavenly punishment, completely enveloping Li Changsheng. Rumble! The earth trembled as if there was a magnitude 9 earthquake. The mountains and rivers shook, and countless boulders fell from the peaks. The river water was turbulent, and carps floated up with their bellies facing up. They were knocked unconscious by the powerful force. However, this was only the aftermath of the sword formation. The real, terrifying force was still within the sword formation. The light gathered on the huge sword, and Li Changsheng's figure could no longer be seen. "It's time to end this." The old man shook his head. "No matter how powerful you are, it is useless if you are not smart enough." The old man's heart was completely at ease. He even had the mood to turn around and look at the middle-aged man and the others who appeared with Li Changsheng. Seeing the old man's gaze, the middle-aged man was scared out of his wits. He crawled on the ground and kept kowtowing. "Spare me, immortal elder. Spare me, immortal elder. I am not with him. We are here to ask for the elixir. If I knew that this bastard dared to go against the immortal elder of the Huashan sect, we would have taken him down on behalf of the immortal elder." Hearing the middle-aged man's words, the old man couldn't help but laugh. He could also see that these people weren't with Li Changsheng. However, they actually said that they would take down Li Changsheng on behalf of the Huashan sect. What a joke. The Huashan sect had paid a huge price to deal with Li Changsheng. If Li Changsheng hadn't underestimated the enemy, who knew how many casualties they would have suffered? How could Li Changsheng be so easy to deal with? Right, Li Changsheng should have been smashed to pieces by the sword light, right? If so, our Huashan sect can take back the heart's wishful sword. As the old man thought of this, his eyes became fervent. When I turned around, my eyes widened. That was because Li Changsheng had opened a sword path and rushed out of the sword light. The tool he used to open the sword path was a Huashan sect's most precious treasure, the heart's wishful sword. The heart's wishful sword was extremely powerful. As a top-grade magic weapon, it was recorded in the ancient books of the Huashan sect that once its true power was displayed, it could split the heavens and earth. Only a few sect masters of the Huashan sect have been able to get the heart's wishful sword to recognize them as its master. As for being able to display its full power, not a single one had been able to do so. Many people thought that the records in the ancient books were exaggerated. However, the moment Li Changsheng drove the heart's wishful sword and rushed out, the old man suddenly had the urge to cry. The power that the previous sect masters of the Huashan sect had been unable to display was actually displayed in Li Changsheng's hands. Although it was still far from being able to split the heavens and earth, it was definitely more powerful than the previous sect masters of the Huashan sect. The most precious treasure of our sect can display such power in the hands of the enemy. How is this possible? The old man wasn't the only one. The expressions of the other elders and disciples of the Huashan sect changed drastically. Li Changsheng had actually rushed out of this peerless killing formation. How is this possible? They were already in despair. "Sect Master, what should we do?" An elder at the side looked at the old man. Ever since Lu Sun and his son died at the Sword Dao meet, the Huashan sect had been left without a leader. Hence, they elected the old man as the acting sect master. The old man was originally the disciplinary elder of the Huashan sect, but he was now the true leader of the Huashan sect. However, it was not easy for him to be the sect master because he had met the evildoer Li Changsheng. What else can we do? Activate the strongest array formation of the Huashan sect. We have to kill this scoundrel, even if we have to sacrifice all of our resources. The old man said resolutely. He didn't want to become the shortest sect master in the history of the Huashan sect and be killed by Li Changsheng as soon as he succeeded the position. Hence, he had to destroy Li Changsheng at all costs. Okay, the elder nodded. Activate the strongest array formation. He hollered. There was a loud roar in heaven and earth, and the entire ground began to shake violently. Then, countless rays of light shot up into the sky and finally formed a pentagram in the sky. In the middle of the pentagram, there was an ancient longsword that was emitting a powerful aura. Although this sword was condensed from sword array, it gave off a very real feeling. This is the strongest array formation left behind by the first ancestral master of the Huashan sect, the universal sword array. You should feel honored to die under this sword array today. The old man said loudly. The ancient longsword suddenly stirred up the boundless wind and clouds and stabbed down at Li Changsheng. In the process of stabbing down, countless rays of light condensed, and it was as bright as the sun. It was as if it was going to cut the world in half. This demon is finally going to die. Many disciples of the Huashan sect clenched their fists tightly. The past few days have been the most humiliating days for the Huashan sect. The sect master was killed, and the treasure of the sect was taken away. Now that the other party had come to kill them, it was finally time for them to redeem themselves. Chapter 334. The universal sword formation is the most powerful array formation of the Huashan sect. It was left behind by the founder of the sect. Unfortunately, it consumes a terrifying number of spirit stones each time it is cast. No one is willing to use it unless it's a life-and-death situation. Fortunately, everything is over. Break. However, in the face of the universal sword formation, Li Changsheng suddenly waved his hand, and a sword light appeared out of thin air. It formed a line in the sky and moved towards the quaint longsword. He was going against the sword formation with his sword technique. Condensed the sword into a thread. The moment Li Changsheng's sword energy appeared, the old man's face turned pale. As expected, in the next moment, the sword thread flashed towards the quaint longsword, and the sword light was cut into two along with the longsword. At the same time, the pentagram in the sky also shattered. The entire universal sword formation was broken in the blink of an eye. However, that was not the end. After the sword formation was broken, the thread formed by the sword energy slashed towards the many disciples of the Huashan sect below. Hundreds of Huashan disciples were cut into two, and there were many casualties. Blood flowed like a river. All of a sudden, there was silence. What myriad-form sword array? What ancestral master left behind? Nothing could withstand a single blow from Li Changsheng's sword Dao. How can this kid be so powerful? The old man who was the acting sect leader of Huashan was also terrified. Even the universal sword formation could not block Li Changsheng's attack. Who could block Li Changsheng's attack? Use the secret method. Let's fight it out with him. The old man yelled. Every disciple of the Huashan sect would learn a secret method when they joined the sect. They would burn their lifespan and potential to launch a powerful attack. However, after using such a secret method, one's foundation would be damaged. Not only would they be unable to make any progress in martial arts in the future, their strength would also decrease continuously. In the end, they would become an ordinary person or even worse than an ordinary person. No one would be willing to use such a secret method unless it was a matter of life and death. Back at the Sword Dao meet, Lu Sun had used such a secret method, but he still failed to stop Li Changsheng. At this moment, thousands of disciples of the Huashan sect began burning under the old man's command. He was burning his lifespan, his vitality, his potential, and everything else. Countless powerful auras could be seen rising. Flying swords flew into the sky, turning into sword chi dragons. Borrowing the power of the formation, it was like a rain of swords, all of them enveloping Li Changsheng. Break again, Li Changsheng roared. He clenched his fist and punched out at the long dragon formed by thousands of flying swords. At the same time, a transparent fist force whizzed out, shattering the void wherever it passed. As the fist force rumbled, a thunderous sound resounded in the world. At this moment, Li Changsheng used the physical strength of the 9 revolutions of the fiend god to deliver his strongest attack, fist shattering mountains and rivers. Wherever his fist went, mountains and rivers would shatter. This was Li Changsheng's true strength, the 9th refinement stage of the fiend god realm. As Li Changsheng had practiced martial arts countless times, his body was even stronger than a magical weapon. Right now, with the circulation of his true essence and the combination of his physical strength, this punch could even kill a Vajra realm martial expert. Rumble! Thousands of flying swords continued to shatter under the fist. It was as if it was raining in the sky. The dense fragments pierced through the air like meteors and shot into the ground. Oh no! Seeing this scene, the new sect master of the Huashan sect had a drastic change of expression. If Li Changsheng's ability to condense swords into threads and break the universal sword formation passed down by the ancestors of the Huashan sect was enough to shock him, then Li Changsheng's punch, which was a combination of physical strength and dharma spells, was enough to make him completely terrified. Swish! 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 Broken sword lights fell from the sky like dense raindrops. It was as if thousands of submachine guns were firing at the same time. At the place where the countless fragments fell, the disciples of the Huashan sect were inevitably hit. Screams of pain could be heard. Some had their throats slit, some had their hearts pierced, and some had their stomachs slashed open. Thousands of Huashan sect disciples collapsed in an instant. This was an indiscriminate attack. The mountain gate of the Huashan sect had turned into a living hell. At this moment, after Li Changsheng had shattered over 1,000 swords, he suddenly crossed his arms and waved them lightly. Countless sword fragments gathered in his arms like 100 rivers returning to the current. In the end, under the guidance of his hand gestures, they spun and flew towards the new sect leader of the Huashan sect. I never thought that the Huashan sect would be destroyed by a young man. The old man cried out in grief. Although he did not want to believe it, he had to admit the truth. Even though the Huashan sect had used all their resources, they still could not withstand Li Changsheng's attack. Demon, I'll kill you. The new sect master's eyes were blood red. He cut open his chest and took out a red sword. The sword grew to 100 feet long as soon as it appeared and faced Li Changsheng's attack head-on. Blood-condensed sword. The sect master is going to protect the Huashan sect with his life. Countless elders of the Huashan sect exclaimed. As members of the Huashan sect, they naturally knew about this secret technique. It extracted one's blood and condensed it into a sword. It gathered all the life force in one's body and sublimated it to unleash the strongest attack. At this moment, this Huashan clan leader already possessed strength that was not inferior to that of a Vajra realm cultivator. However, this was only one attack. After this attack, he would completely disappear into thin air. This was a method of mutual destruction. Whoosh! The long sword pierced the sky. Bam! It collided with Li Changsheng's attack. Rumble! Heaven and earth roared, causing pain in everyone's eardrums. In the sky, there was a burst of dazzling light at the point where the two attacks collided. It's equivalent to an attack from a Vajra realm expert. This time, the demon will definitely be killed. An elder said loudly. It seemed like he was saying it to others, but also to himself. The others nodded. It's a pity that the sect master will leave us forever. The elder's eyes were filled with sorrow. Even if this attack could kill Li Changsheng, the new Huashan sect master would not be able to live. The price Huashan sect paid was too high. Everyone stared at the sky. This was already the final battle of life and death. However, Li Changsheng rushed out from the light. At the same time, he did not wait for the new Huashan sect master to die. He threw a punch and smashed the old man into a bloody mist. Meanwhile, Li Changsheng stood in the sky, completely unscathed. It was too terrifying. At this moment, everyone from the Huashan sect felt despair. Below, the middle-aged man and his subordinates watched everything with their mouths agape. This was a scene that only appeared in movies. However, it was happening right before their eyes. The most terrifying thing was that the high and mighty Huashan sect immortals could not stop Li Changsheng alone. Is he a demon? The middle-aged man muttered to himself. The cold woman's eyes glowed brighter and brighter. Chapter 335. Whoosh! Li Changsheng descended from the sky and charged into the crowd. In an instant, several elders were chopped into two halves. Wherever he passed, no one was able to block his attack. Go to hell, all of you! Li Changsheng shouted. Like a tiger in a flock of sheep, he was like a human meat harvester under the enhancement of the sword light, leaving behind corpses wherever he went. Supreme Elder of the Huashan sect, are you still not going to show yourself? Li Changsheng killed so many members of the Huashan sect that only a few were left. However, he couldn't help but frown and look at the valley. Before he came, he had already received news that there was a supreme elder of the Huashan sect who was in seclusion all year round. Li Changsheng had been secretly on guard when he made his move. That was because it was rumored that the supreme elder was a Vajra realm expert. Even with Li Changsheng's current strength, he could kill the supreme elder, but he would have to pay a price. He was wary of the supreme elder's sneak attack. However, he didn't expect that the supreme elder still hadn't made a move after killing so many people and almost wiping out the entire Huashan sect. If the supreme elder had been hiding in the dark all this time, then his wisdom was too terrifying. As soon as Li Changsheng finished speaking, the disciples of the Huashan sect and the hall masters all revealed sorrowful expressions. They shouted, "Supreme Elder, please make a move." However, after half a minute, there was still no response. Only a gust of wind blew, bringing with it the stench of blood that was nauseating. "Supreme Elder, are you abandoning us?" The disciples of the Huashan sect sat on the ground, paralyzed. They no longer had the courage to resist. Li Changsheng was too terrifying. They couldn't stop him at all. "Supreme Elder, please show yourself. Otherwise, the Huashan sect will cease to exist in this world." Li Changsheng spoke again. His voice reverberated in the empty sky, but there was still no response. "If that's the case, then let's end this." Li Changsheng raised his palm and covered the sky, then slammed it down. Boom! Boom! A huge pit appeared on the ground, and the flesh of the remaining disciples of the Huashan sect were in the pit. They were all dead. The Huashan sect, once famous in the world of cultivation, was completely annihilated at this moment. Other than the Supreme Elder, who had never shown himself, there were no survivors. "I'd like to see where you, Grand Elder, are hiding like a coward." Li Changsheng also felt ashamed for the other party. This Grand Elder watched as his sect was destroyed without doing anything. He truly lived up to his name as a coward. Li Changsheng's body turned into an afterimage as he rushed into the valley. Countless buildings collapsed on the ground. These were all destroyed when Li Changsheng broke the array. There was a large hall in the valley that was still intact. When Li Changsheng stepped in, he saw a vivid and lifelike statue of a god holding a treasured sword. This should be the founder of the Huashan sect. "It's a pity that your legacy was destroyed by me." Li Changsheng shook his head and cut the statue in half. He then spread out his divine sense and covered the entire valley of the Huashan sect. He wanted to see what kind of treasures the Huashan sect had. Soon he found two places protected by powerful arrays. When he opened one of them, he saw a room full of weapons. There were a total of 4 high-grade magic items, and the rest were low-grade or even low-grade magic items. It seems that Lu Sun was willing to use 2 high-grade magic items to get Yin Shuangying and Sima Chongkong to deal with me. He really put in a lot of effort. There were only 4 magic items in the entire Huashan sect. Regardless of whether they were useful or not, Li Chongsheng took them all. He then opened another array, and there were 5 or 6 boxes inside. Each box was filled with spirit stones, but they were all mid-grade or high-grade spirit stones. Only the last box contained 200 supreme-grade spirit stones. This should be all that Huashan sect had. Li Chongsheng took the spirit stones without hesitation, but his eyes were filled with doubt. He covered the entire Huashan sect with his divine sense, but he did not find any signs of life. It seems that the Supreme Elder is not afraid of death and has gone into hiding. He is not even in the sect. Li Chongsheng sighed. This time, he was here to get rid of the root of the problem. However, the Supreme Elder was not dead. He might leave behind trouble in the future. After he was done, Li Chongsheng walked out of the valley. Greetings, Immortal Master. The middle-aged man and his subordinates did not dare to leave. When they saw Li Chongsheng, they hurriedly knelt on the ground. The woman looked at Li Chongsheng curiously, and there was a hint of fear in her eyes. Get up. Now you should believe that the half-pill I gave you can save your son, right? Yes, I believe. The middle-aged man was grateful. Immortal Master, Yi Shuang is my adopted daughter. I will give her to you as a gift. The middle-aged man pointed at the beautiful woman next to him. Unexpectedly, the beautiful woman suddenly said, Immortal Master, I am not his adopted daughter. I am a tourist on Huashan, but he caught me and wants to give me to the Huashan sect leader as a gift. As soon as Yi Shuang spoke, the middle-aged man's expression changed. Several of his subordinates immediately rushed up to cover Yi Shuang's mouth. However, before they could do so, they saw Li Chongsheng waving his hand gently, sending them flying. Li Chongsheng looked at the woman quietly and said, Are you telling the truth? If I lie, I will die a horrible death. Yi Shuang nodded. However, Li Chongsheng's gaze instantly turned cold. If Yi Shuang was really the Supreme Elder's daughter and was willing to give her body to treat her brother's illness, Li Chongsheng did not agree with this method, but it was understandable. He did not expect that the woman was just a tourist, and she was kidnapped by these people. This was heartless. Immortal Master, don't listen to her nonsense. The middle-aged man's expression changed. Is she spouting nonsense? Li Chongsheng stared at the man's eyes. Seeing that the man was avoiding his eyes, he immediately understood. He waved his hand, and sword light flew out, killing the middle-aged man. Then he said to the other subordinates, He is the mastermind, and you are just his subordinates. Get lost. The subordinates, who thought that they were going to die, were immediately moved to tears and said, Thank you for sparing our lives, Immortal Master. One by one, they kowtowed to Li Chongsheng, turned around, and ran away after kowtowing. In the end, only the cold woman, Yi Shuang, was left standing there. When Li Chongsheng's gaze fell on her, Yi Shuang's eyes showed some panic. A man and a woman are alone here. With his strength, if he wants to do anything to me, she did not dare to think further. Li Chongsheng couldn't help but find it funny. He didn't expect this frosty woman to have a side of fear. Don't worry, I won't do anything to you. Li Chongsheng smiled, then turned around, took out the heart-wishful sword, and was about to fly away. Wait a minute. The woman hurriedly called out. What's wrong? Li Chongsheng looked puzzled. Can you take me out again? Looking at the woman's expression, Li Chongsheng understood. The woman's body was delicate, and walking inside with the team had almost exhausted her strength. If Li Chongsheng left and let her walk out on her own, in this wilderness, any tiger or wolf would probably jump out and eat her. Even if there was no tiger or wolf, with her body's condition, she would not be able to walk out. Okay. Li Chongsheng nodded, pointed to the flying sword under his feet, and said, Stand on it. I will take you out. Okay. The woman nodded, and there was a little excitement in her eyes. In the past, She had been envious of people who could fly on swords on TV. She did not expect that she would have the chance to fly on a sword. Let's go. Li Changsheng waited until the woman stood on the sword, then controlled the heart-wishful sword and suddenly flew up. Yi Shuang suddenly exclaimed in shock and immediately hugged Li Changsheng's waist. Li Changsheng did not feel anything, but Yi Shuang's face was as red as a tomato. They flew out of the mountains and came to a piece of land. Li Changsheng landed the flying sword. Only then did Yi Shuang let go of Li Changsheng's waist. Her face was so red that it was almost dripping water. Okay, if you continue walking forward, you will reach the tourist area. You should be able to find your way back. I will leave first. After Li Changsheng finished speaking, he once again controlled the flying sword and flew into the sky, disappearing into the distance in the blink of an eye. When Yi Shuang raised her head, Li Changsheng was nowhere to be seen. She could not help but feel a little wronged. Such a beautiful woman like her was casually thrown here. It was too much. Although Yi Shuang was angry, there was a look of reluctance in her beautiful eyes. You saved me, but I don't even know your identity. But Li Changsheng, I will remember your name. I believe we will meet again. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.